Dr. Mike, I want to get jacked.
Steroids. 2 days a week for 30 minutes at a time, and you can still make phenomenal gains if you're a beginner. You get a very excellent physique if you train in a certain specific way. Within several weeks, you're going to notice that you look different. Then, you have a real good chance of making a crazy transformation. The most critical thing about it is a lot of people make that mistake. Is the number one fat loss vector that we have. It's huge. So the best way to lose fat is...
How about organic foods?
Yes. One of the biggest persistent myths of all time in nutrition. If you want to really overpay for food that is statistically undifferentiable, then you can do organic food. But organic food is a giant fucking scam.
Another one is diet soda.
Oh yeah. Well, this is going to get me a bunch of hate reels. Peace and love, everybody.
So yeah, dude, for people that aren't familiar with your background, you're the co-founder of Renaissance Periodization. You got an awesome YouTube channel, which is how I found out about you and your work. You got a PhD in sport physiology. Mm-hmm. You have competed in bodybuilding. You're currently a bodybuilder.
Yes, correct.
And Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner.
Correct.
So, and amongst a lot of other things that we'll discuss, but those are the kind of
chronic masturbator, yes. Person that cries often. So many other things.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with either of those, to tell you the truth.
Well, if you're gonna do anything, do it consistently.
That's right.
So an occasional masturbator, someone I don't even trust.
Yeah. So yeah, dude, let's start with that. I guess to give people some context, how'd you get into doing your fitness stuff? We'll start there.
Yes, I was not so I was really physically active and loved physical activity when I was a very young child. And then at age 12, the summer between 6th and 7th grade, my best friend at the time, and still to this day, one of the closest people to me, and I decided to spend an entire summer playing a combination of the original Nintendo,
hell yeah,
mad respect, and the original PlayStation in his basement while eating junk food, mostly every day. And I gained a bunch of fat. Weird how that happens. And then I was not in very good shape, either aesthetically or performance-wise or even feelings-wise, all the way through the middle of my freshman year of high school. I remember in 8th grade trying to sprint and being like, what the fuck happened to me? I used to love sprinting and just, when you're running really fast, you feel super free and empowered. I was like, okay, that's not a thing anymore. That sucks. So then one of my friends, one of my best friends to this day, was somebody I hung out with in my freshman year of high school. And after school, I caught him one day and I was like, hey, do you want to hang out? And he was like, I'm actually on my way to do wrestling tryouts. And I was like, I have nothing better to do. So I said, can I come with you? He's like, yeah, sure. And so him and I both went and joined the wrestling team. And during wrestling, my freshman year, at the time I started wrestling about 120 pounds. I finished the season at about 100 pounds. And I realized I was super weak and out of shape. And wrestling, believe it or not, a thing you need to be in shape for. I know that sounds crazy. But I decided to start lifting weights after wrestling season was over so that I can be in shape for next season. I still wrestled all 4 years, not so illustriously, but I continued to lift. I hated lifting at first. I just did it because I had to. I figured it was just something people hate because it's hard. And eventually I learned to love it after a few years. Then I fell in deep love with it. I went to undergrad at University of Michigan and I started the Michigan powerlifting team / club, which is still a thing to this day. We got to make the charter and we had a really funny clause in there, how succession was done between presidents was just named successor. It was completely undemocratic. We thought it was hilarious. The university said that was totally fine. So a very despotic club, yeah. But, so I competed in powerlifting for a while. And then I realized at some point I really liked training for reps and getting a pump. And I picked up a Flex magazine at the store once. And it was the edition that summarized the 2002 Mr. Olympia contest. And I was I read through it maybe 100 times or some shit. And by read through, I mean mostly looked at people's physiques, mostly their cock outlines. JK, actually, one of the girls I had a huge crush on for half of my life, I showed her bodybuilding magazines once in college. And her first thing that she did was just she looked at their dick outlines. And I was I've never once noticed that was a thing. As single as I was biceps, pecs, quads. And she was cock. And I was huh. huh, I never even thought to look.
I can't unsee it
Like
now.
I just like, because to me it's like triangle irrelevant shape where no one cares. I didn't even know you could assess size like that. You got to squint at it. In any case, I was fascinated by the idea of like getting jacked. And so I started to train for hypertrophy. That took me through masters and through my PhD program, just training to get super, super jacked. And the reason I did so when I started my undergrad, I actually started in engineering at Michigan, but then like I was so in love with lifting that I was like, fuck that lifting time. And so I did my degree in exercise science instead, and then exercise science in masters, exercise science in PhD program, sports science in that case, tiny, tiny distinction. And after that, I became a college professor and everything. And during my PhD program, we started RP to try to help other people and so on and so forth. And so I've been lifting weights now for like, 26 years or something.
Okay, so let's start there. Let's say somebody comes to you and says, Dr. Mike, like me, for example, the average dude is not all that jacked, says, I want to get jacked. How do you, I know that's kind of a broad question, but how do you then diagnose and prescribe?
Steroids. That is actually a very tractable question. I love that question. I know you said it's really broad, but there's just really a super easy sequence of things. The first thing you have to ask is how many, depending on your level of seriousness, 30-minute to 1 hour consistent blocks of time can you give me in the week into which I can allot your weight training? And the consistent part does all the work there. I don't give a fuck if you can train 8 times a week in 1 week and 0 times in the next 3 weeks. But if you can consistently tell me, look, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 5 p.m., I'm 100% dedicated to going to the gym or going to my home gym for 1 hour or even for 30 minutes. And I'm going to make it a point to do that. Once you tell me that, I get out my old RP hypertrophy app and I program you a workout. And the programming isn't super fancy, but the consistency is like the most critical thing about it. It's similar to like learning a language. Imagine if you were like, I want to learn German. And so I was like a German instructor. I wouldn't be like, just like, listen to some audiobooks or something. I would be like, you need dedicated practice time that's consistent, because consistency is the foundation that builds like everything in this world. And so once you tell me, okay, I have XYZ amount of time, I know how to allot whatever muscle groups you want to train. I know how much of them to train because it takes a certain time to train a certain muscle for how much volume. And then once I build a structure, you go to the gym and execute said structure. So that's number one. Number two is I would ask you a question, maybe, of what's your diet like? Now, I'm going to say something here that a lot of trainers and coaches might at first find to be kind of an obtuse thing to say, but I think it might have some validity. And so typically what you're supposed to do is ask people what they're eating and then modify it for them. I have a mixed track record of that. I think I just don't really super care what you're eating. I'm just going to tell you what's a good idea to eat. The answer's kind of like the same either way, right? Like you have a lot of military folks on this program, on this channel. If I, hire DJ Shipley or one of these guys to teach me how to shoot guns, he can be like, okay, so like what typically, how do you position yourself? How do you draw? How do you but like, I'm going to do it all wrong. So if he's like, how do you do this? My first answer to him would be like, don't even ask me that, bro. Just tell me what to do. And cause like, just go right from the basics.
That's a very good example, actually.
Right? Cause like
it's like, it doesn't fucking matter what you do currently. I'm going to teach you how to do it right.
100%, all funnels the same way. And so for dieting, I would just kind of give you the basic principles. Try to get you to eat 3 to 5 whole food, mostly meals, with a protein core and often veggie ancillary, and then carbs, healthy fats in addition to that as needed, to get you enough protein and enough calories to make sure that you are supplying all the raw materials and energy with which to grow muscle. And then I would let you do that, monitoring your body weight, monitoring your strength for reps. And every week I would check in with you to see how that goes and update the plan if necessary. A lot of times updating is not required because Consistency just means you just keep grinding away and you'd make gains. And after weeks and weeks and months, we start to learn how your body works a little bit more individually. And then we could start to really individualize the plan. That really is the core of the thing. The last thing I'd say is I would ask you a few things about your stress management and your sleep to make sure we're not just like fighting a completely pointless battle. Because if you can get good sleep, 7 to 9 hours per night, then like you have a real good chance of making a crazy transformation. If your sleep is like, because, like I talked to plenty of folks about this and they're like, yeah, man, I just don't get good sleep. And I'm always kind of like, all right, well, you're probably not going to be super successful at this because sleep is like ultra critical to recovery and all that other stuff. So that's the foundation. So just to review, figure out when you can train. It can be 2 days a week for 30 minutes at a time, and you can still make phenomenal gains if you're a beginner and get actually a very excellent physique if you train in a certain specific way. And it can be up to 6 days a week for 2 hours at a time. No problem. The only thing is for beginners and intermediates, I recommend starting in the low end of things because sessions you can make are much better than sessions you have excuses that you didn't make it to. And so start on the basics there. In addition to that, layer in really decent nutrition, which is a matter of getting it right most of the time, not 100% of the time. Have really good sleep, and then just be consistent on that program. Your body's going to start to change, and everything changes once you have like a velocity of improvement. One of the toughest things about lifting and eating is like the day before you start all the shit. You're like really scared. You're like, fuck, I don't know what I'm doing. Is this going to work? Once you start to make gains, you're like, It's like an analogy here is like if any of the viewers have ever done like wrestling or Brazilian jiu-jitsu or boxing, kickboxing, anything like that, the first 6 months to a year, you just have no idea what's going on. And then as soon as you develop a few moves or learn a few moves that you consistently can go to and they have some effect on your opponent, it completely changes the game. So like after 6 weeks, you know when you're going to the gym, you know what exercises you're doing, you know that you're making progress because you're getting a little stronger, your body's kind of changing in the mirror, you're not like mystified about what to eat, you have your meals, your go-to meals, you know how to replace them in case you're traveling, then it's like smooth fucking sailing and the rest is just steering the ship a little bit.
So you mentioned a couple things. Is for, I guess, people that are on the beginner end of the spectrum, is starting with maybe fewer sessions and lower volume, could that be better for them because in the beginning their bodies will respond to less stimulus and they kind of build it up over time instead of like starting out with 6 sessions a week and a lot of high volume sets? Is there a difference?
Absolutely, for 3 reasons. Reason number 1, you need very little to make great gains when you're starting because your body's super sensitive to the shit. Number 2 is if you do too much when you're starting, it can actually lead to overreaching and injury because like you just cook yourself because you're not accustomed to shit. And then the last reason is your body, your brain, your mind has a relationship to how it sees itself with regard to consistency that's really important. The relationship is as follows. If you begin something that's pretty easy, a little bit challenging, and you can knock it, you can green check box it and knock it off, then you have like built up loads and loads of momentum to believe that you can do the thing. You develop a degree of what's technically called self-efficacy. I'm an effective person in the world. When I touch the world changes the way I want. That's huge. If you start out with 6 2-hour-long sessions, you don't need that much to grow. You're probably training too much and actually not growing as much. You're probably going to get hurt. And also, you're almost certainly going to burn out because it's massive, massive, total crazy change. Once you burn out, your self-efficacy declines substantially. And even if you're not burnt out yet, your self-efficacy could have been in decline because you're like, I'm still here, but this feels overwhelming. You do not want to feel overwhelmed. You want to feel whelmed and then successful and then challenged and then successful and challenged and successful. So to people that really want to just buy in and just go all out at the gym, what I say is like, start with 3 1-hour-long sessions per week. And then after a few months, if you're like, this is the easiest shit I've ever done in my life, I'm psychotically passionate about it and I want to do more of it, for the next half year, add a 4th session. And then a half year later, add a 5th. And then after 2 years of training, you can go to the gym 6 times a week. And then you know that you can do it. And then it's something that will pay a good dividend at that point because you're not super, super noob anymore. And then all of the right things are in place. There's this temptation I think all of us have that we want this goal to be achieved. Like I want to be in a super awesome fit body. And if I do a lot of work up front, I'm just going to get there sooner. And that's not so true. It's kind of like if you're racing cars in like a not just oval track, you're just hitting the gas and never hitting the brake. I remember when I was like playing racing games with my friends when I was a little kid, like I didn't even care which button was the brake. Okay, so why the fuck would I brake? I can just crash into stuff and then it resets me on the track and I just go. And so in real life, it does not work like that. So what you want to do is pick a goal that is a little bit challenging and get the easy gains, build momentum, build confidence, have great results. And then if you're like, look, if I want to take it to the next level, I can always crank it a little bit and add another session, add intensity, so on and so forth.
So have you read Atomic Habits by James Clear?
No.
So I'm
very familiar with that line of work.
Okay. So I'm pretty sure that this is where this thought comes from, but he basically talks about, turning yourself into, in this case, the type of person that goes to the gym. So you get to the point where like, if you don't go, it bothers you. So I guess what I'm getting at is like turning it into a lifestyle rather than this big chore. I think if maybe people look at you and they say, oh my God, this guy's he's got to lift 5-6 times a week. He's got to eat clean all the time. He has to do all these things. And for you, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way you probably look at it is like, no, I want to do this stuff. This is just the way I live and I enjoy it. I like it.
1000%. If I'm not misquoting, there was a wrestler named David Schultz, U.S. Olympic champion. And he had a quote, I'm going to paraphrase, where he was like, people always talk about the grind and suffering in wrestling, like practice and stuff. He's like, I never thought about it like that. This is where I want to be. I like it here. How the fuck do you beat a guy like that? And they didn't, right? It's a super, super good idea to have something that you enjoy doing and something that you can build into your habitual daily or weekly process. And at some point it becomes worst case, like brushing your teeth. You might not love it, but you do it just because just every morning you just do it. And best case, it becomes a passion for you. And then my God, like there's people like, oh man, you must be super dedicated to lifting. I'm like, I guess it's more of a compulsion. Like I'm sort of addicted to it. If I don't do it, it's a problem. You can't just get to that addiction phase right away. But what you can do is two things: not overshoot how much you want to program of something so that it overwhelms you. So start with just 2 or 3 days a week. The other thing is make it a consistent part of your daily/weekly routine. It's like every Tuesday, I don't just drive home from work, I drive to the gym. It's Tuesday, I drive to the gym. My friends know about it, my family knows about it. It's where I am. You want to see me on Tuesday between 5 and 6 p.m., you can come see me at the gym because that's where I am. It's similar to wake up times and bedtimes and stuff like that. It just becomes a part of what you do. If you can have something that's rewarding and a little bit challenging and is part of your daily schedule, after about 4 or 6 weeks of it, it becomes a habit. And then you're just kind of like, yeah, I just do this. It's super easy to get intimidated on new habits or trying to form new habits because for the first few weeks of lifting, it's going to be like way harder than it will ever be mentally on you to like try to make it to the gym and all this stuff. Swallow it. Continue to go. After 4 or 6 weeks, you're going to be like, oh, this is just something I do by default and it's no big deal. Another really quick thing. If you ever feel like not going to the gym, you can totally just not go and come back next time. That's always okay. But consider this, something I wish I knew and something I remind myself of all the time. Don't judge how good your workout is going to go and even how much you're going to like it until you're into the workout itself. Show up. Do the warm-up sets. Like my lowest desire to train is right before or right during my first warm-up set. I'm like, I don't want to fucking be here, man. My elbows hurt. It's cold. I hate this. Why am I still doing this to myself? Yeah. After my second working set, catch a little bit of a pump. I'm like, I hope this workout never ends. Yeah. And so just show up to the gym and just go through the worst case scenario. After the first 2 working sets, you're like, I'm cooked, I'm out of here, I need time off. Then cool, you're just overreached, you overtrained or whatever. No big deal. You just take a week off and then you'll come back. But probably in most cases, you're going to thank God that you actually just did the thing. So if you're ever like struggling with motivation or inspiration, remember, just show up to the gym and do your warm-ups. Remember, warm-ups are easy. It's not even a challenge. Just go do it. And then once you get your shit flowing a little bit, you're going to be like, oh, why was I intimidated about this at all?
Oh, what's up, guys? This podcast is brought to you by Ultra Pouches. Lately, I've been leaning way too heavily on caffeine and energy drinks. They're great in the moment, but caffeine later in the day is terrible for your sleep. So I started looking for something to give me energy that's, 1, not addictive, and 2, doesn't mess with my sleep schedule. And that's how I found Ultra Pouches. So Ultra sent me some product to try, and I think it was within 3 days, I reached out to my ad agency and I said, can you have them send me as much as they can? Because I know that I'm gonna run out soon. That's how much I liked it. So what they are is they're pouches that are made with nootropics and adaptogens to support smooth energy, focus, and mental clarity. And best of all, they contain 0 caffeine and 0 nicotine. So I'll just pop one in right before I'm about to sit down to do a bunch of work, and I don't have to worry about any crash, any jitters, or, most importantly, creating a bad habit that I'm gonna get myself addicted to. Blue Raz is by far the best flavor, and it's not up for debate. So Ultra, if you're seeing this, palette, Blue Raz. Ultra is the ultimate guilt-free pouch, delivering instant focus and mental clarity without nicotine or caffeine. New customers can use code Dalton to get 15% off at takeultra.com. That's takeultra.com for 15% off with code Dalton. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support the show and tell them that we sent you. This episode is brought to you by Plod. If you've watched this show before, you know that the interviews that we do can go up to 6 hours or even longer sometimes. And weirdly, when it's over, it just feels like a big blur. And a lot of the times I forget entirely what we talked about until I go back and watch it when I edit it. So that's why I started using the Plod Note Pro. As you can see, it's a credit card thin AI-powered recorder that either sits in your pocket or, in this case, right next to me on this chair. And when you're done, it gives you a full summary of the conversation that you just had so you can go back and remember the important parts. There's even a feature called Ask Plod where you can literally query your own recordings and say, hey, what did we talk about when we were discussing X, or what did we decide? And it pulls the answer for you. So it's basically an additional brain for your conversations. So if you do any kind of long-form meetings, calls, or even just have conversations that you need to remember, this thing is a game changer. No more scrambling to take notes and having to tune out for half the conversation or go through an entire recording just to find one thing. So if you head over to plod.ai and use code DFP10, you'll get 10% off of a Note Pro right now. That's PLAUD.ai and code DFP10 for 10% off the Plod Note Pro. I'm glad you brought up the idea of kind of just going through the motions, because in this context, it's phenomenal for habit building. Like, you become the guy that goes to the gym. Like, you went. That's indisputable.
Yes.
But something for me in my own training that I realized recently is, like, I kind of was going through the motions more so. I was more on that side of the spectrum than I was like fucking truly leaving it all in the gym. And like, again, we can talk about what leaving it all means, how many reps in reserve, but like from a broad perspective, how common do you think that is, where if somebody says, okay, like, I'm not growing muscle the way I want to, I'm not losing fat the way I want to, how common do you think it is that that person is kind of just like showing up and going through it and not like really digging in the way that they should be?
It's not the only problem, and people do the opposite problem where they're digging way too hard all the damn time. But there are huge numbers of people that are going through the motions, and they are not putting in enough relative effort, is the technical term, proximity to failure, in order to get the best results, not even by a long shot. And physically, you won't get as good of gains. But I think one of the casualties of that sort of approach is the psychology. Because if you start doing your lifting like you're doing your vacuum cleaning, it starts to wear on you as a chore. And that's no good. I prefer to get people, and this is something you can't really have at first, that into the modality of trying to do a good job. And this is like something that applies to all of life, I think. But if you're gonna, people said like, how you do something is how you do everything. That's absolutely false. But there's a grain of truth in there that if you want to have a good time doing something and you want to get really good results at it, giving a shit about how you do it and trying to aim for a really good result, not perfect, just really good, is awesome. Like, let's say you had to work at a fast food restaurant. There are two ends of a spectrum in which you could place your psychology. One is regret and disgust and frustration of why the fuck you're here. And you're making burgers and you're cleaning the bathroom and you're just like, you're trying to mentally leave your body for as much of that as possible. You're not going to like working fast food then. It's going to suck more than it objectively sucks. The other hand, there's the SpongeBob SquarePants approach to working in fast food, where you cannot wait to please the customer. And you can't wait to be the most cooperative coworker to all of your coworkers. And you can't wait to be your boss's number one employee. And every single time you make a sandwich, you realize that at the end process of you making the sandwich with diligent care, the person who unwraps the sandwich is going to have one of two reactions to it. You ever like get a sandwich from fast food and you're like, who the fuck made this? Like, there are parts of this, like the bun is sort of underneath the burger and you're like, how? And it's all misarranged and shit and it's wrong, like they have the order wrong. Versus sometimes you get a burger just from regular McDonald's and you open it, you're like, oh my God, is this like from a photo shoot? Who the fuck made this? This is like artisanal. If you understand as a fast food worker that your goal in every sandwich you make is to bring that deep happiness to the next person that eats it, you're going to have a real good time. Literally minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day, you're going to want to show up to work because you're trying to do a good job. And then obviously, and I've worked enough like, manual labor style jobs to know this deeply, the people who put in more quality and effort, they're the ones getting promoted and they're eventually regional manager and then they own 10 McDonald's franchises and people are like, how? They're like, I was trying to just do a good job. It's really straightforward. And if you are in management and anywhere where people are like relatively unskilled labor works, you're like the next day you find out if someone wants to fucking be there or not. And you know instantly who you're going to want as shift leader and who you're not going to want as shift leader. And when that guy quits, you're like, thank God, anyone else would be great for this job. But when someone's really good at the shit and they're like, hey, summer's over and I got to go back to college. You're like, kid, good luck. You're amazing. Anytime you want to come back, please do. For lifting, the exact same thing applies. When you're lifting, you want to make sure you're trying to do every rep really well and every set really hard and doing enough sets that it really makes a difference in your results and making sure to treat your nutrition well, because you're not there just to spin your wheels and waste your time. You're there to try to build something. Like if you asked like Michelangelo, like how long, like, was it really like arduous to make like all your sculptures and paintings? He'd be like, the fuck? I was lost track of time doing that shit. I wanted to be nowhere else. I was so involved that it was just like the time of my life. That's what you want to be. I'm probably early in announcing this. This is not a formal announcement, but my team and I are working on opening up a pretty large gym in the metropolitan Detroit area. And I recently went through and cataloged all the equipment we're going to order. Dude, I don't know how long it took, a long time. It was like the time of my life because I really give a shit about what we're ordering. That's so amazing. If you put in half of that into your lifting, what like Jocko Willing calls like deep ownership, like hardcore serious, I want this. If you do that, man, you're so well on your way versus just going through the motions. That's on your best days, though. On your worst days, you're just going through the motions, at least for the first couple sets. But what I typically find is that if you just don't want to be there that day, the first couple sets are going through the motions. Once you get a pump, feel your swag a little bit, look at your RPA hypertrophy app, notice that you got a little PR. Oh shit, okay, your boy's out here. And then you're taking a little bit more ownership. You're really feeling the muscles, really feeling the technique. And then boom, you're into extra credit time and all is well. So yeah, most things in life, including lifting, I would say really try to put your heart into it a little bit, because not for motivational, stupid quote nonsense, but you're going to have a better time and the result will be better. I just don't know what else is missing from that equation.
So, and we don't have to spend too much time on this, but it makes me think like how much of that is just, you mentioned, okay, going to the gym with being in a certain headspace, like this is going to suck. This workout's going to be terrible. Like I'm kind of just going through the motions. And then a couple sets in, you're like, oh no, that's not the case. This is completely turned around. Like how much of that is just getting your body in motion changes your, what's going on inside your head?
90%. It literally just like elevates your fight or flight hormones and it warms up your body physically. And those fight or flight hormones give you this tunnel vision effect of like being very goal focused. Like if you're just kind of like, I don't know, if you're sort of putzing around and not having a good time on vacation and you're in like a hotel and you hear like gunshots off in the distance and people running, you're going to have a real distinct focus of purpose real goddamn fast. However lazy you were feeling that day and disengaged, maybe you weren't talking to your wife and you went on vacation. You're going to be like, honey, right now, grab your purse, grab your ID. You're running with me into that jungle right now. Let's go. Because it's like, whoop, just like that. A mini version of that happens when you're lifting and then you feel like more focused, more engaged, and you have one set in you that went well. Now you're empowered. It's a big deal, huge deal. And it happens super automatically. Here's the real thing. I'm glad you asked this, Dalton. It happens ultra automatically. You don't even have to like hype up for the shit. You don't have to like think like, okay, Mike, you got to focus today, brother. You got to just lens in on this. Just don't even bother. Just lift the weights hard and it's going to suck. But then the next set, you're like, okay, I'm feeling my swag a little bit. And then set number 3, you're going to have to like restrain yourself from trying to fucking eat the weights because you're 100% there because it really is just that physiological. It's a big deal. Now, if you can also talk a little shit to yourself and get yourself going, that's totally cool. But also, you're in the lifting game for the long term because the only way results happen. I'd say being kind to yourself is probably a good idea. I really am not a big fan of negative self-talk. Like a lot of people get in the gym, they're not motivated. Like, come on, Frank, fucking pussy. You know, like say it to yourself in your own head. Like, remember, you are the last person to get off of your team. You're on your own team in the biggest way possible because you are the fucking team. You don't want to like denigrate your own team. You don't want to call yourself a pussy because like your mind will believe that stuff. You probably want positive self-talk. Like, hey, like tell yourself, hey, Dalton, you know, like you are a person that's capable of doing this. And you're just having a bad time because the physiology hasn't kicked in yet. Let's have a little faith. Let's do a good set and see where we go from there. And then all of a sudden, boom, your workout is starting to go really well and you don't need the self-talk. It also helps to have training partners for that sort of thing. Going to an actual gym versus at home, because there's like a culture of expectation in the gym. Like as soon as you walk into the gym, you're like, oh, people are working out. I better fit in. Whereas if you're like, you have your TV and you have your gym at home, you have your TV, gym at home, TV, gym at home, you're like, fuck the gym. I'm just going to watch TV and there's nobody to tell you otherwise. The ritual of going to a gym is a really, really big deal. So that also helps. And then of course, like I typically don't do this a ton, but music's a big deal. Like, yeah, you throw on your headphones, get, you know, gangster rap, people literally talking about how they're planning to kill other gangsters for local control of some central Los Angeles neighborhood. That's the kind of thing I want to listen to when I'm lifting weights. Because relatable, because I also grew up a gangster. Many people don't know this, but I was the first person to unify the Bloods and the Crips in the San Jose area.
Now they've separated again. It's very sad.
Well, I left and they instantly went back to fighting.
Mike was the glue.
It's terrible.
So, okay. So just taking a step back, you mentioned 2 sessions a week at 30 minutes a session. Now, like for people that have actually, put some thought into training, they know that, especially if you don't take any, let's say anabolic steroids or anything else to like enhance your progress, that progress happens really slowly and you might not see any visual indicators of that progress, especially since it happens on such a minuscule level. Like day to day, it's not noticeable.
Definitely not.
In theory, right, 2 times a week, 30 minutes per session, you're making gains, but like how noticeable are those gains on that end of the scale?
If you're a beginner and you have decent genetics, within several weeks, you're going to notice that you look different. But what you should be paying attention to at first is not how you look different, it's your performance. So you do a certain number of sets and reps, like you have a certain weight you do for a certain number of repetitions per set in session number 1. A week later, you should be adding like 5 pounds and or a rep. That should continue until you really tired, need to deload, you reset all your weights after deloading, and then you continue to progress. So like you can make progress by weight and reps every single week, kind of the entire time you're training for your whole career. Progress stalls out in one group of exercises, you switch exercises and you make progress again. So that's what you should really be focusing on. At the end of the day, after weeks and months, you're going to look in the mirror and you're going to be like, oh shit. One of the cool ways to check in on progress is like when you have a really good pump. Because if you have a good pump, you pull off your shirt in the gym and sometimes you're like, oh, like I've had numerous, some of the best experiences in my life in this regard are from surprising yourself. Like you get to visiting some gym and it's like really good lighting. You don't know it's good lighting. You pop off the sweatshirt and you're just in a tank top. Like I was in, I went to Paris, France for the first time a little while ago. And I went to this random gym with a friend of mine and it was like totally like just middle of nowhere, like the Parisian gym scene. No offense, Parisians, is a gigantic disaster. Like there are better gyms in like 1 square block of New York City than there is in all of France. It's insane. But I was like, so I had very low expectations, but this gym happened to have baller fucking lighting. And I caught a nasty pump, pulled off my sweatshirt and I was like, oh shit. And like, it's cool because a lot of other people in the gym were kind of like, oh, what the fuck? And I was like, okay, now that's enough inspiration for like years. So just checking in on your physique every now and again when you have an awesome pump and decent lighting is going to be like two things. One, it looks sweet. And two, you're like, oh shit, this is a different look than it was before. But expecting it to change daily is like, to your point, an unmitigated disaster. Expect to get a little bit stronger every single week by a rep or about 5 pounds on the bar with good technique. If you can do that, that's all the progress you need. The stuff that changes visually takes a while to change under the hood. The other thing is this. If you lift for several months, several years, and you've built a lot of strength, but you don't look super different, doing an 8 to 12 week fat loss phase, like in which you lose like a pound of weight, even just per week, man, after 8 to 12 weeks of that, you're going to be able to show more of your muscle off. And you're going to be like, oh, fuck, this is what I've been building. Because fat loss happens like 10 times faster than muscle growth or something. And so you can have the visual change of a year's worth of lifting in like a month or two's worth of fat loss dieting. If you ever need inspiration to see what you've been building, just lose some fat and you're going to be like, holy crap. And if you've ever been on Instagram or something like that, that's how all of these pre and post pictures work. People typically don't post physique updates when they're off season, like unless they're hardcore bodybuilders. And then it's a very niche following and everyone's like, look good at 310 pounds, brother, pretty solid. And you're like, I guess he looks good. I liked him better when he was competing, but you just don't know what you're looking for. You know what I mean? So that is, I would say, like, if you really need the inspiration of seeing how the progress is happening, do an 8-week fat loss phase. Make sure your strength is at least stable that entire time, eating plenty of protein, training really hard. You will find that like that transformation reveals what you've been building and you'll probably be very, very pleasantly surprised. And then you slowly bulk out of that, gain half a pound of weight per week for another 10 to 20 weeks after that. And you're going to like retain most of that leanness, slowly build size and strength again. You do cycles of gaining, losing. And then like every 6 months, you have these massive inspirational experiences of looking substantially different. That's a big deal.
So you mentioned pump but how much is pump and soreness? Like how are they as far as indicators of, okay, that was a very good hypertrophic lift for me?
We have direct evidence now from several studies that the people that get the most pumped from any given amount of stimulus grow the most muscle on average. The pump, I think, is a big deal. It's not critical. You know, you have to have a pump to get your results, but probably to get the best results, that's going to correlate to some of the better pumps you're going to have. And you can think about this in a bunch of different ways. Like, okay, what's going to take for me to have better pumps? Lots of sleep, lots of food, a ton of focus, and lots of volume. Oh shit, those are all independently variables that predict muscle growth. So it makes perfect sense. Like if you're dieted down to the bone, super stressed out, barely sleeping, and doing low carbs, and you barely train at all, you're not going to have the best pumps. And guess what? All of those other factors causatively reduce how much muscle growth you're going to have. So the pump is a pretty good guide to muscle growth. It's not critical, but it's a really big deal. Soreness tells you what I like to call like boundary conditions. If you tell someone like, you know, how to play American football, you might be like, all right. When you're trying to like run down the field, when you have the ball, you see that white line over there, like the boundary on the left side, don't run past that. And don't run past the one on the right. And just keep going that way. Like if you do nothing else, just keep going that way. They're like, okay, cool. Because, you know, otherwise you just get out of bounds and then whatever, they mark the distance. Soreness is really similar in this regard. if you're not making good gains, because if you're making good gains, just don't fucking change anything. If you're not making good gains and you're never getting sore, probably doing more intensity and almost certainly more volume, like more sets per session, is a really good idea. On the other hand, if you are getting consistently sore, such that you're barely healing by the next time you've got to train that same muscle again, many reasons could be there for you not making your best gains, but insufficiently training is almost certainly not one of them. Like imagine, this is going to be a completely perverse analogy, but imagine like, you're with your girlfriend or whatever, boyfriend, I don't judge, and you're banging and no one's having like the best time, but like she's physically sore and so are you in the genital areas, Dalton. There are probably a dozen reasons how you could have better experiences sexually with her. Probably 0 of them are like you go to a sex therapist and she like reviews your notes. She talks to you. She's like, you just have to fuck harder. You're like, but I'm literally bruised. She's like, that's what it takes, baby. And you're like, I never thought that was the case. So a lot of times when people ask me like, hey, like I'm not getting ideal results in my chest, I'll ask like, hey, how's your chest soreness? You train twice a week. How's your soreness? If they're like, dude, I get sore all the way up until Thursday, and then when I get sore again on Thursday, it's all the way up until Sunday night, I'm like, okay, don't do any more chest training. More is not the answer. Because how the fuck would it be? You're like still not even recovered and you still have to go again. That's how it works at all. So if you're really, really consistently getting sore and barely healing on time, it's a really good indicator that doing more, heavier, like closer to failure, more sets is not the answer. It's just not. Then almost certainly it's like you probably should be eating more, eating better foods, eating more protein, sleeping better, or just having better genetics. That one's tough to pull off. You know what I mean? Yes. And so that's a really awesome way of using these boundary conditions of if you're not making good gains and you're barely getting sore and barely getting pumps, man, doing more and more intensity is probably a good idea because like, you clearly can recover. So you're good to go. Whereas if you're getting psychotically sore and you're barely ever recovering, you for sure know that doing more is not the answer. And these are both like really important things, right? Because if you tell me, look, I barely get pumped, barely get sore, I'm like, yeah, just do more. And they're like, well, how do you know it's going to work? Well, because we have an unbelievable amount of literature to suggest that the more volume everyone does, the more they grow. There's a drop off, but it's really like a curvilinear relationship. Like more is better. And the other end is really awesome because imagine finding out that the reason you're not growing well isn't that you're not working out enough. Well, fuck, man, what an amazing thing to just take off the board of hypotheses to focus on the shit that probably really works well.
Okay, so, and I want you to kind of lay this out for people too, but it's going to be part of my question as far as like doing more volume for specific muscles per week. If they are, like for me, for example, I want my shoulders to grow. So from listening to you, like I've started to try to hit my shoulders 3 times a week, and I'm trying to figure out which blows. I fucking hate doing shoulders. Same. And one of them's bad. So it's just a wonderful time. Anyway, I'm trying to figure out what the right balance of volume is for my body, where to your point, like if I go on Monday, I'm ready to go again on Thursday and on Saturday or Sunday or whatever. So my question is, if I hit it hard on Monday and I'm not ready to go again on Thursday, do you think it's better to scale back the volume on Monday or to just push it back to Friday? Does that make sense?
Scale back. So in that week, you can just go Friday, but don't do much on Friday because you're going to have to heal for Monday. Next week, scale back the volume so that you're healing on time, 100%. I would say like for people that have been training more than a few months, because in the first few months, you can do like 1 or 2 sets of things and it's actually really good gains. Don't do any more so you don't need it. Been training more than a few months, the right amount of volume for any small muscle group, because like if you talk about like the back, like there's all kinds of different parts, you can do way more volume. Triceps, biceps, individual like quads, hamstrings, simple acting muscles like that, typically somewhere between 3 and 10 sets per session, per muscle is going to lead to the best outcomes. And how do you determine where between 3 and 10? We start closer to 3. So am I getting pumped? Am I getting sore? How is my performance the next time I come back? If it's like not getting pumped much, not getting sore much, performance next time I come back is a fucking breeze. There's no way I'm under recovered. Go to 4, then go to 5, then go to 6 as needed. If you're at 8 sets 3 times a week for shoulders and you're barely recovering, for each one. Don't change a thing. If you're at 9 or 10 and your shoulders are like dead on Wednesday from the Monday workout, go back to 6 or 7 and then start from there. That's kind of how I see that. Volume is something that will change over time for you, but what you want to do is dope out your volume like you dope out how much food you're doing at meals to not be hungry. If you try a certain amount of food and by the time at breakfast and by the time lunch comes around, you're eating your own hand, you need more breakfast. If by the time lunch comes around and you're like still like almost throwing up from breakfast, you had too much breakfast. Volume is the same way. You want to be very well healed for your next session, but having just finished healing very recently, so you can spend all of Monday, Tuesday growing, Wednesday hit it again, spend Wednesday, Thursday growing, Friday hit it again, spend Saturday and some of Sunday growing. The rest of Sunday is super, super relaxing, recovering, and then voila, Monday you're ready to go again. That's how I would approach training volume.
And so, what about like, so for example, for me, like my legs or for whatever reason, or my quad specifically, super sensitive, bro. Like and I guess for shoulders, right? Like I could do however many dozens of sets per week and like I'm, pretty good, but I'll do quads once a week in like 3 sets and they're fucking fried. Like I'm barely able to walk up the stairs out of the gym. So how individual is it for every person? Like, do they need to kind of find out, is it, is there more in common across people or is there more variation in terms of each individual in that regard?
It's both. So there's tons of commonalities, but variation is definitely a huge rule. So if you have typically muscles that are allowed to produce a lot of force in a very stretched position will take on a lot of damage. They'll grow a ton, but they just can't do as much of that volume. Like if you train hamstrings properly with like good mornings and stiff-legged deadlifts. I did 2 sets of 15 reps of stiff-legged deadlifts like a week ago. My shit is still fucked up. I had to skip more or less. I did like super light training for my last leg workout because the one before that was where I did that. And I was like, I can barely use my hamstrings at all. But with the side delts, which is most of your shoulder mass comes from, you would have to like translate your humerus through your ribs in order to stretch it, which is impossible. Unless you want to do a lot of cool surgery and also die. So at that point, like, okay, you can't actually stretch your side delts, so you're going to have to spam the volume. But there are differences genetically between people on fiber type, on the sensitivity of the various molecular machinery that like notices that you're applying tension and will get your muscles to grow. That's like genetically determined in large part. And so some people will do 3 sets of bicep curls and it'll blow up. They'll get usually huge pumps. They'll get psychotically sore and they'll get really great results. But they can't train either as often or with as much volume because like the shit is too much, but they get amazing results. And then some people that do their biceps, they'll do 3 sets and they're like, I feel sort of warmed up now, but nothing's going to happen. They need more volume. There's also direct literature to show that people who struggle with putting on size usually benefit from doing more volume than less volume. Because if you're a slower twitch, your muscles recover ultra fast. They don't even take a lot of damage. They don't take a huge stimulus and you just need more sets to make them grow, which for both of us, we have the kind of shoulders that don't respond a ton to growth. Mine actually are like pretty big. If I do like a rear double bicep pose, my shoulders look kind of ridiculous. But they don't pop from the side. And so I'm like, God damn it. So I just have to do like a trillion lateral raises. I don't like it. But my shoulders rarely ever get sore. They rarely ever get very tired. And when they do, they heal like the next day. They're totally fine. And so for me, I just have to do more. Whereas like my quads, my hamstrings, my chest, dude, I did 3 Myo Rep sets of chest, which means like I did a set of 20, close to failure last time on a machine press. It was a really awesome machine press, got a really big stretch, which is a lot of tension applied in a deep stretch for the muscle is like pretty much like as effective for muscle growth as going close to failure versus far from failure. It's a huge, huge deal. My team and I have a lot of research to put out on this really soon. It's going to be a really big deal. Like the stretch is super important. So it's a great machine, but I did a set of 20 and then I did another set where I went to failure at like 9 reps, rested for like 10 seconds, then did another 4 or 5, rested for 10 seconds, and then finished 20 and then did another set of 20. So I get 60 total repetitions. My chest is going to take 5 days to heal from that. It's 3 sets. Whereas like, if I was like, oh, how many sets do I need to get my shoulders to be sore? Like, man, truthfully, 20 sets per workout, which I'm not going to do, maybe. And then they would be sore for like 2 or 3 days. So it was hugely individual. But for most people, side delts, forearms. They're going to be like some parts of the muscles of the back. They're just not ever leveraged in a position that applies a ton of tension with a huge amount of stretch. And so they're probably just not going to be muscles that are very low volume, easy responders, where if you properly train muscles like hamstrings, quads, chest, triceps, man, you're going to be able to nuke them pretty goddamn fast.
Okay, you mentioned a couple of things there, and I told you this, Myo Reps, huge hack, and probably maybe just in terms of variation, but it's been great for me. So explain to people what those are and why they're so beneficial.
Yes, invented and named by Berge Fagrelli, which is my Nordic impersonation of how his nonsense first and last name sound.
Sounds like Italian.
It does look Italian,
Yeah.
But it's very Norwegian apparently. It's a variation on what is traditionally known as rest pause. So you do a bunch of reps, you get tired, you put the weight down. You can rest 2 or 3 minutes if you want, but you notice that for some muscle groups, only the muscle is the limiting factor. Like you're not tired systemically, you're not out of breath. After you do a set of dumbbell curls, it's not like you're dry heaving in a fucking trash can for 2 minutes after. With squats and deadlifts, you sure shit are. You're not going to Myo Rep that shit. So what you do is you do a bunch of dumbbell curls, you put it down, let's say 15 reps. What you can do is rest 5 to 10 seconds and then crank out another high quality 5 reps. And because your body tends to grow muscle better when the reps are closer to failure, as far as we can tell, like every single one of those 5 reps in that little second set, that Myo Rep set, those are all close to failure. And so your muscles are like, oh man, we're getting a lot out of it. Rest 5 to 10 seconds, hit it again. And you can do that. You can end up saving a ton of time and spending a lot of time very close to failure. And it just checks every single box that you want. So it's a really, really good strategy. It's not like mandatory, but there are multiple studies showing pretty much identical gains, volume equated. So the same number of total repetitions. One way to do them is to do sets of 10 or 15 and rest 2 or 3 minutes between. The other way to do them is to do a set of 10 or 15 and then just Myo Reps, 5 to 10 second breaks, 3 to 7 reps, rest, 3 to 7 reps, rest, 3 to 7 reps. That total rep number will be the same in both types of subject participants. The growth will be identical, or roughly so, and you will spend like literally half or a third of the time in the gym doing Myo Reps. And that's cool if you want to get out of the gym quick. It's one of the ultimate unlocks. So are like supersets and stuff like that. But for folks like you and I who want to pour volume down our throats for like shoulders, it allows you to pour so many reps down the throat of the muscle in such a short time that you're like, well, I'm actually still here for 20 minutes. I'll just do more volume. Like for my current program, which is prioritizing shoulders, I'll do 4 to 6 Myo Rep match sets per session. What the hell's Myo Rep match? Myo Rep match is when you do one straight set first, like a set of 18, really close to failure, rack. Rest a normal amount of time, 1 to 2 minutes. Then you put, the selectorized weight stack, Atlantis lateral raise machine, best one they make. And you're like, okay, still the same weight. I'm still going to do 18 reps, but I don't care how many Myo Reps it takes for me to get there, because I'm going to stop at 12 because you're fucking exhausted. But then I'm going to wait a little bit. I'm going to do another 3. I'm going to wait a little bit. I'm going to do another 3. Boom. Okay. I'm at 18. So for me, I'm currently doing 1 straight set and then 4 of those Myo Rep match sets. With the end of it, the last set is like 8, 3, 3, 2, 2. It's brutal. But it allows me in the same time it would typically take to do like 50 total reps, I'm doing like 100 total reps because I'll do 5 sets of 20 reps. It's going to be like, I don't know, 10 or 12 approaches to failure. And it's going to be 100 total reps. If you told me like, hey, why don't you just do 10 sets of 10? I'd be like, dude, fuck this. I'm leaving. Like, I'm a lazy asshole in many regards. 10 sets of 10. I mean, have you ever done 10 sets of 10 training?
I don't think so.
It's the most boring, despicable way of training. The people that do it are just tougher. They deserve all those gains. But you can do the same literal equivalent, but with Myo Reps, and it's going to take half the time and give you the same results. It's also in a sense like super fun. And you'll notice like once you've done like a set of 12 hard, the next set of 5 after 10 seconds doesn't feel as tough because your body's kind of really in the zone. Whereas if you take 2 minutes of rest, there's a little bit of like the first couple reps kind of suck again. So there's something to it where if you learn how to train like that, it's a pretty fun style of training. And it's not mandatory, definitely something to try. And the big kicker is this: how out of breath are you after a set? If you're so out of breath that it takes a minute or 2, don't even bother, because it's just all going to be junk volume if you try to do it again. So for example, squats, deadlifts, bent over rows, you're not Myo Repping that shit, man. is you're going to get like 10 reps in the squat. You're going to rack it. You're going to wait for 5 seconds. You're going to walk it out. You're going to do one grind rep, rack, and be like, fuck, the next one's going to be 0. It's not going to work. But if they're chest supported machines, shoulder press machines, sure shit, all the arm training you can do, even hamstring training like on a machine, the Myo Rep situation works unbelievably well. And you can do it on hack squats and leg presses, especially leg presses. You just lock out your knees at the top of like a set of, 10, and then rest a little bit, do another set of 3, rest a little bit, do another set of 2, rest a little bit, boom, you did 15 reps, but you did 3 approaches to failure in that. So what I do a lot of times for my quad training is I Myo Rep everything on quad training. It's going to be like set of 15, 15, 15. That's 45 total reps, but over only 3 sets. Whereas if I just did them 10 at a time, it would be like 4 or 5 sets. It would take way longer. The pump is gnarly. The effects are amazing. 3 cheers for Myo Reps.
Hell yeah. So, okay, this might be kind of like a loaded question, but do you ever, and if so, like when are you pyramiding up in weight? Or so, like let's say, you're doing dumbbell chest press. How often are you starting with one weight and then your next set you go up, and then a set after that you go up, or vice versa? Is that
great question? My hypothesis is as follows on this. When you're training for low reps, how strong you are really matters because you're training like really heavy. And heavy training demands that you can go heavy. So you want to be as fresh as possible. So after warm-up sets, and I typically do like 3 warm-up sets for big heavy movements, set of 12, set of 8, set of 4, and progressively increasing in weight. Once the warm-ups are done, I'm going to my heavy weight either first or second set. And that works out great because like my first set's going to be my highest performance set of the entire session. If someone was like, hey, like you get $1 million for every rep you're going to do you want me to count your first set or your second set? You're like, what? Of course, first, I'm fresh. That's when you typically use your heaviest weight. Some people don't feel truly deeply warmed up until their second or third set. Then you can pyramid up, no problem. For most people, you don't want to go heavy for the first couple of sets. Now, if you're going to do dumbbell presses for 5 sets, maybe you do 3 sets heavy, but then like you go lighter because once you go lighter, the quality of the contraction, your movement path feels better and you're weaker now. And so you might as well lean into higher reps because if you're weaker, you can still do high reps. But if you're weaker, you can't do low reps as effectively because you either don't get as many reps or you have to drop the weight. So I say do your heaviest lifting earlier in the sets and earlier in the session exercise-wise. If you have like 3 back exercises, one of them is hardcore heavy bent rows, one of them is weighted pull-ups, and the other one is like assisted pull-ups for high reps. Don't do assisted pull-ups for high reps first in most cases, because then hardcore heavy bent rows will neither be so hardcore nor so heavy because you're going to be fucking tired. So do your bent rows first, then your assisted pull-ups, and then you do your weighted pull-ups because those are pretty tough, and then you do your assisted pull-ups after that. So generally structure your lifting, if let's say, because there's like 3 basic rep ranges for muscle growth, the 5 to 10 rep range, the 10 to 20 rep range, and the 20 to 30 rep range. I'll say if you do all of them within a given session, which you don't have to, then do your 5 to 10 rep shit first, then your 10 to 20 shit rep after, and then the final exercise or something, you can do your sets of 25 or some shit like that to burn out and then leave the gym. Because if you try to think about how it would work the opposite way, you're like, yeah, man, just did a set of 25 barbell lunges, time for heavy squats. What the fuck are you talking about? Like your squat max is going to be down by 40%. You're not really training heavy squats anymore. You're training for squats that feel heavy, but your muscles are going to be like, this ain't it, and they're not going to grow as much.
Okay, and another thing that you mentioned that, again, I think that the first example that comes to mind is dumbbell like chest press, like the deep stretch. And this is something that it is fucking humbling, dude. Like you can, I saw some stuff like on your page that you post, like, bro, I'll grab 45s dumbbells on an incline and like really focus, really slow eccentric and focusing. Maybe you could talk about this too, like a hold on the stretch. Yep. 15 reps, maybe a Myo Rep it. Like that is humbling. It is very low weight, but checking my ego at the door and doing shit like that and not worrying about what everyone else thinks, because I guess people do. That has been an unlock for me and afforded me more muscle growth than anything else.
If anyone has questions about the relationship of muscle size and ego to incline dumbbell pressing, consider and go on Instagram and check this person out. It's an RP athlete and a great human being, Nick Walker, IFBB pro bodybuilder, who competes at about 5'6.5", 5'7", which is my height, and 270 pounds on stage. This is not a human being. His nickname is the Mutant for a reason. You're going to look at him and you're going to be like, that's AI. That's not a real person. He's real. He uses usually the hundreds for incline dumbbell presses, because my colleague Jared Feather taught Nick Walker how to do this shit right. And Nick's like the world's fastest learner in exercise. He instantly was like, oh, and he did it perfectly and he never fucking stopped. Nick Walker used to do like, he would incline like 4.5 plates per side on the Smith machine, partials for reps. And then now he does the hundreds. You can imagine like some TikToker kid like sees Nick Walker like load up the hundreds and be like, huh, I can do that. Like, yeah, but how come your chest isn't the size of Saturn's rings or some shit? And it's going to be like, maybe I have misconstrued this. I was actually, training somewhere in like Kansas at one point. It was a really great gym, some random gym. And I was already like super, super jacked by normal people standards by that time. It's me complimenting myself typically, like let the hatred flow comments, like legit, like real talk. Like I have fucking big legs, man. And so I was doing leg press and I was finishing my sets and this guy came up and he's like, hey, how many sets do you have left? And I was like, oh, I'm actually like pretty much done. I was like, do you want me to take the weight off for you? He's like, no, I'm good. And his legs were like half the size of mine. And I was like, all right, word up. And it was easy for me because I don't have to unrack the fucking weight. It was great. But then he proceeded to do his bullshit quarter reps and, for those fucking bag legs. And all love and respect, just another human being, right? But I just kind of wondered to myself after I left the gym, I was like, did he look at my legs and look at his legs and look at my legs and look at the weight? And did anything like compute where he was like, no, that guy's just a pussy. Yeah. And like his muscles are full of nonsense steroid oils or something. Like it just never even occurred to him. So the ego thing is like total respect. Like, of course you don't want to be that fucking asshole doing the 30s or some shit. And the TikToker girl next to you is doing the 30s. And you're like, oh my God, I'm never going to get laid. This is just awful. So don't just chase light weights for no reason. But if you get an ultra deep stretch, then it's going to save your joints. It's going to make you more flexible. It's going to reduce the risk of injury like crazy. If you pause at the bottom, you don't have to, but if you pause at the bottom, it further reduces how much weight you need, further is even good for your joints, way reduces injury risk because you don't have that little rebound effect. And it's just like all super, super good things. Remember why you're in the gym. You're in the gym to get stronger and to grow muscle. You are not in the gym to show off. If showing off is really important to you, consider this. Who are you showing off to? If it's people who are legit lifters, they will judge the fuck out of you for doing partials. No legit lifter is impressed when you get the 120s and you do this half rep bullshit on incline. Everyone just like deadpans you. Have you ever seen the movie? Oh my God, I'm blanking on this. A History of Violence.
I don't think so.
It's with Viggo Mortensen. There's this like scene where these like local tough bully kids in this small town like cut off literal serial killers in the street. And this kid's got like this, he's like a high school kid. He's got like this supercar. He looks at the serial killer and the serial killer's in a truck. And this kid's like, he does one of these and the serial killer's just like deadpan. The guy's like, okay. And he just drives off. That didn't work. And so like, you'll get roughly that reaction from elite lifters when you're like rack the 120s and you look at them, they're going to be like, are you done with that? Cool. And then you get the 110s. You're like, this guy's ranked on USAPL. I'm not. How does that work? So if you want to impress people, do it with really awesome technique and really awesome effort. And then people will fucking fist bump you that matter. If you want to impress randoms, yeah, fuck yeah, bro. Don't even bother with dumbbells because like dumbbells visually are not so appealing. Get on the Smith machine, set the fucking safety pegs real high, and then just do incline presses with like 4 or 5 plates. It's going to be amazing. Everyone's going to want to be your friend. You're going to have loads of sex. You're going to have STDs. It's going to be awesome. Unwanted pregnancy. The whole thing's great.
That's how it works.
It's great.
I'll give you some context for the question. So like, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have like some sort of nagging injury. Like for you, you do jiu-jitsu. I know like one of your shoulders or maybe both are kind of.
Oh yeah, both.
Not ideal. So I'm sure there's some people that they have something somewhere and maybe they have certain exercises that they do that are more comfortable and don't aggravate that injury. So how important is exercise variation to growth? And like, can people just do kind of the same exercises or do they have to mix it up sometimes?
Mixing it up is better than not, but mixing it up doesn't have to occur super frequently. If you have an exercise that treats your body super right, then and it's stimulating you well, and it's not psychologically ultra boring and super defeating to be like doing the same bullshit over and over again, you can do it until you're blue in the face. It's good from a proactive injury perspective to not do identical exercises for like months and months and months and months and months. because then you have the same identical wear and tear on the same structures for a long time. It can actually cause nagging injuries. So if you're always doing overhand pull-ups for 6 months, maybe switch to neutral grip or then switch to underhand. It refreshes the exercise that you're taking out. It gives your muscles a slightly different look. It's been shown that hitting a muscle from multiple different angles is slightly superior for growth than hitting it from the identical angles all the time. So even that's beneficial. And I would also say that if you have a nagging injury that like isn't so interested in a particular exercise, do the exercises it really loves. But then later when the injury is just like doesn't feel like anything anymore, with super light weights, super good technique, come back to those exercises that used to hurt it a little bit and see if they don't hurt it anymore. And then over the weeks and weeks and weeks, increase the load. You might recover exercises that used to hurt you that like now don't hurt you. I used to do skull crushers a little bit wrong and it would just destroy my elbows. And I was like, never again skull crushers. And same thing with hack squats on my knees. But then like I lowered the weight, I fixed my technique after staying away from them so that everything recovered. And then I started to thread them in. And after a few months, I was like, oh my God, I am a hack squatter and I am a skull crusher person. This is amazing. So I would say it's usually a good idea not to write off exercises for forever, but for a few months to let them cool off, 100% it's a good idea. Well, the last thing you want to do is attach yourself to exercises that fuck you up, but like egotistically, you can't get away from them. I know guys that can keep leg pressing. They have to like wrap their knees and shit. I'm like, dude, why are you doing this to yourself? You could just take a break from leg pressing for a few months, but not, they like the clang and bang of 15 plates or whatever, and they're just going to keep doing it. That's the real shitty thing.
Do you think that there is do you think people have a misconception about people think that you have to do certain exercises to grow certain muscles?
Oh yeah. It's almost completely wrong. I used to be one of those people and I could feel it in my head when I said it, that it was wrong, but I said it anyway. Mostly again for ego cultural shit. There's a part of the gym in which is just like a technical question of what is going to be the most effective thing. There's another part of the gym where it's an ego question that's culturally latent of, are you doing the tough guy stuff? If someone showed you huge quads and you're like, what are you doing for those? And they're like single leg extensions. You'd be like, fuck, I didn't want to hear that. What you wanted to hear was that they were recreating the Bulgarian training hall from 1989 in the back room by high bar squatting, ass to grass with a pause, fucking 300 kilos for sets of 10. That's what your heart wants to hear. And so when you're choosing quad exercises, you want to bleed for the shit, which is dope. And I'm never going to kick dicks out of people's mouths for that. It's awesome. Bleed all you want. Do the hardcore shit. I built the vast fraction of my size doing bent rows, bench presses, overhead. So here's the thing, like you want big shoulders. I used to think like stand like a man with a barbell in your fucking hands and press it overhead and then touch your chest and press it again. And I was awesome at overhead barbell presses and I loved doing it. But like I would get a whole body cramp on the last few reps. The stimulus to fatigue ratio, not worth it at all. And so on vibes, it's great. And so I think a lot of people will do exercises on vibes. The reality is like, there's nothing wrong with that as long as the stimulus is awesome and the fatigue's not excessively crazy. But if you think like you need deadlifts to grow your back, that's just wrong. You can grow your back doing like machine exercises. You have to train them hard, just like you would deadlifts, but you can still do it. Exercises are more of, are they hitting the target muscle well? And individually, do you like them? Do they not hurt you in the bad way? And are you progressing on them? If that's the case, hey, fucking have at it. And I get questions like this all the time. Like, and because people have this cultural understanding of exercises you have to do versus not, they're kind of like a little sheepish in asking the question. They're like, hey man, and it's almost like they're admitting a sin. They're like, hey man, I know you're supposed to be bench pressing and inclining and stuff, but like, man, this chest machine at my gym just nukes my pecs, man. I love it for my shoulders. Am I like doing something wrong? I'm like, no, you're great. And they're like, oh my God, they're like so relieved. Like, of course, that was always going to be the right answer. The same thing applies to like foods also. Like you're supposed to be eating like 3 foods to be a bodybuilder. That's not true at all. You can eat a bunch of different kind of stuff. And as long as it's like healthy and has good macros, then you're good to go. So the exercises thing is like, yeah, there are some exercises that are better than worse. Exercises that are stable, that are loadable, that allow you to hit a lot of tension in a deep stretch are typically like categorically superior, but also like, okay, you do 3 sets of the categorically superior exercise that you hate and it irritates your shoulder, or you do 5 sets of the exercise that's not categorically superior, it doesn't hurt your shoulder, you love it, and you get the same results. Okay, it's only 2 more sets. You're in the gym a ton anyway. Who gives a shit? Also, looking for like one best exercise is really stupid because staleness is a thing that happens. Like you do the same exercise over and over and over for months and months and months, it'll go stale. You need variation anyway. It's like having a favorite sex position and like, you're like, yeah, it's fucking the only thing I do. And she's like, for real? You're like, uh-huh. She's like, it's been 10 years. Like, come on. Like, come on. Well, you're like, it's totally cool. You can get it other way from other guys. I don't care, baby. For me, you only get fucking missionary or whatever. That's like ridiculous, right? At some point, you're going to want some variation. And so for exercises, just picking like 5 to 10 amazing exercises that you love and always having an ear to the street to try new shit is great. You just rotate those in and out and you're going to have the time of your life. So don't go looking for one maximum best exercise because it just doesn't exist.
This podcast is brought to you in part by Stash. You don't accomplish a mission by winging it. You have a plan, you stick to the fundamentals, and you stay disciplined when conditions change. Investing should be no different. That's where Stash comes in. It gives you expert guidance and a clear plan, so you're never left wondering what to do next. Stash is a registered financial advisor built right into an app. It gives you personalized next steps and expert guidance designed to help you build long-term wealth. You stay in control of your money while getting the structure and direction to invest with confidence. Whether you're still serving, planning your next chapter, or years into civilian life, Stash helps you stay focused on your long-term goals no matter what comes next. Because the hardest part of investing isn't getting started. It's staying disciplined over the long term. Let Stash show you the way. Join more than 1 million active subscribers who are building wealth the Stash way, with guidance, structure, and support every step of the way. For America's 250th anniversary, Stash wants to make it easier for those who served and are serving to get the financial advice they need. Go to stash.com/Dalton to get 15% off of a monthly subscription or 30% off of an annual subscription and to view important disclosures. That's stash.com/DALTON. Paid non-client endorsement. Not a guarantee nor representative of all clients. Investment advisory services offered by Stash Investments LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk. Offer is subject to terms and conditions. When I started this podcast, everything was overwhelming. There was no roadmap. There was nobody showing me how to do it. I had to learn everything myself. Cameras, audio, lighting, editing, guest booking, social media, YouTube, the whole thing. And so every day was a new problem that I just didn't know how to solve yet. So if something existed back then that had any of that stuff pre-built for me, I would have jumped on it immediately. You know, any shortcut, any win, no hesitation. And that's exactly what Shopify is for anyone building a business. Everything pre-built, everything in one place. Shopify powers millions of businesses and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. They give you hundreds of store templates so you're not starting from zero, AI tools that write your product descriptions and headlines for you, built-in email and social campaigns to find your customers, and expert support available 24/7 for whenever you get stuck. No figuring it out alone, no reinventing the wheel. So head over to shopify.com/Dalton to sign up for a $1 per month trial. That's shopify.com/DALTON to give it a shot for $1 per month. Yeah, I think that it's a really interesting conversation because like the way that I've conceptualized it in the past before like listening to people like you is that there is like staple exercises, right? Like, you know, shoulder press to grow your shoulders, pull-ups to grow, you know, muscles in your back. But like you bring up an interesting point, and we talked about this off camera, is like people kind of attached to the vibes. I guess the clearest example for me is like if you see somebody that is like super jacked on Instagram, and like this probably you know, when Instagram first started, like I don't recall the year, but there was people like, you know, Bradley Martin. I remember a guy named Simeon Panda, fucking jacked. And I was like, okay, follow, and I guess you watch, you're like, what are these guys doing? Okay, this guy does heavy reps for sets of 6, and like I think that this is what I have to do to grow muscle. Whereas maybe if somebody saw, I don't know, I can't think of a bodybuilder that does like high rep, low weight, but if they saw that, maybe they attach to that because they like that. So the interesting point that I've learned from you is like people kind of attach to those vibes, not necessarily what the evidence suggests.
Oh yeah. Well, here's this is gonna get me a bunch of reels, hate reels. Peace and love, everybody. People love Mike Menser, Dorian Yates, and Ronnie Coleman. as inspirational figures for hard training. Why? All three had phenomenal physiques. All three won a ton of shit. And all three went hard in the gym to a level that just like, if you saw in real life, you'd be like, is that guy okay? Which is amazing. Spirit animals. You should be worshiping these people. What you should not be doing is concluding that the way they trained is categorically superior to other modes of training. I'm going to go one at a time. For Ronnie Coleman and Mike Mentzer, you would think the way these guys trained is like superior because of results. Exists a problem, and that problem is called Lee Haney. Lee Haney trained with excellent technique, and he trained with meticulous program design that was way ahead of his time. But Lee Haney's famous quote is "stimulate, don't annihilate," which is fucking lame to hear. It's true, but it's lame. Lee Haney won the Mr. Olympia as many times as Ronnie Coleman in as dominant of a fashion. He shut out the entire 1980s, more or less, of would-be champions. There are guys that by themselves look like Mr. Olympia until you put them next to Lee Haney, and you're like, fuck me. Okay, Lee's just going to win again. Mike Mentzer won the Olympia 0 times. Lee Haney won it 8. Mike Mentzer is a god among men. Lee Haney's a god among gods. Almost nobody that I've ever met is like my inspiration for training is Lee Haney. Because you watch him train and you're like, he's training with good technique and a few reps shy of failure with like a bunch of sets. I don't know. Dorian Yates fucking sent it for most of his sets. Amazing spirit animal vibes. Phil Heath won the Olympia one more time than Dorian Yates did and had what most bodybuilding fans would probably describe as like an objectively superior physique. Like if they're from two different eras, but if you put them next to each other, I mean, Phil Heath would beat pretty much everybody. Phil Heath trained, with like cables and stuff and however many reps shy of failure. And it's just never so inspirational. But people, but you look at his arms and you're like, how the fuck do I get arms like that? The reason people vibe with Ronnie, with Dorian, with Mike Mentzer is because of vibes. And there's nothing wrong with that. But assuming you need to train that heavy and that hardcore to get the best results is wrong. Another example is Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler won the Olympia like 4 times or something like that. He was massive, shredded, the whole thing. Jay Cutler is on record saying he's never gone to failure in the gym. But that's not fun to hear. Jay Cutler just did a bunch of good technique, bunch of high volume and super high frequency and shit like that. He was in the gym for hours a day. And you don't want to hear that. And so it's important to separate vibes from like what you're going to do. Like when I want to watch a video and get fucking motivated to go train, I'll watch a Dorian Yates video. I'll watch a Ronnie video. When I want to emulate someone, what I actually do, I watch a Jay Cutler video. 2 different things.
Yeah. That tracks. Okay, and you mentioned going to failure, and the other option would be reps in reserve. So what does the science say on that?
Yep, going to failure, set per set is a little bit more effective than keeping 2 to 3 reps in the tank. The problem is it magnifies the fatigue you experience non-linearly, but the gains are linear and a little bit more. So if you take 1 set to failure versus a set 2 or 3 shy of 2 or 3 reps shy of failure, you get probably like 90 or 95% of the growth from the 2 or 3 reps shy of failure set as you do from the failure set, but you get like 150% fatigue more from the failure set. If you are doing a low volume programs, you just don't have a lot of time to lift, you should be training pretty much every set to failure. If you train in a high volume program, you have like 5 sessions a week, they're an hour and a half each, you're very serious, you can push more sets in and not have as much fatigue so that you can continue to add weight and reps week on week and week, get better gains. If you have most of your reps somewhere between 3 and 1 rep shy of failure, maybe at the very end of your program before deloading, you go all the way to failure. That's how I see the whole train to failure situation. And here's the thing. Just don't make it an ego thing. Just don't do it. It's a technical question. How am I going to train to get the best results? If you want to feed the ego, full send to failure, do drop sets, you're the fucking man. Nobody's going to stop you. If you want the best results in the context of a high volume program, start your program at 2 or 3 reps shy of failure, add 5 pounds to the bar or a rep for every week until you hit failure, then recycle, repeat.
Okay, so I'm sure you get asked this question a lot around like the biggest misconceptions around muscle growth or myths, but I guess I'll throw a little bit of a twist on it to make it more interesting to you. Or is like, what would be the most either egregious or one that gets under your skin or one that you see a lot that is categorically false about building muscle? Like, what comes to mind?
You want me to answer a training one, a nutrition one, or
It's still training? We haven't, I guess, even made it into diet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Going heavier is better than doing higher reps for muscle growth. Comes from that same well of, actually a combination of two things. Three things. Ego, laziness, and pain avoidance. You take a set of 5 and compare it to a set of 15. A set of 5 is egotistically satisfying because you get to use more weight. Does not require as much work effort because it's 1/3 of the reps. And it just doesn't hurt that much because like you don't get a crazy burn from a set of 5. It crushes you a little bit. You have to be a real man to lift sets of 5. So there's something there. But compared to sets of 15, it's just easier. And so a set of 15 is going to be substantially more work effort required, less egotistically like congratulatory, and it's going to be way more painful. But a set of 15 is going to grow roughly the same amount of muscle as a set of 5. And so sometimes when your joints are really beat up, when you want to reduce the probability of injury, you're going to want to do sets of 15. And some muscles just, they feel better with sets of 15. There are lots of people out there that will say, man, sets of 5 grow more muscle than sets of 15. They are almost always hallucinating. So almost every study shows that it's basically the same amount of growth. And the rest is context dependent. I think a lot of people tell themselves sets of 5 are better than sets of 15 because they don't want to have to, they're coping with the fact that they don't want to have to do sets of 15, even when that would be the logical answer, because they just don't want any of that noise because it's fucking harder.
And then real quick, you mentioned it, but what does the science say on rep ranges?
Everything between sets of roughly 5 reps taken close to failure and sets of 30 reps taken close to failure causes about the same medium term, several months amount of muscle growth. The rest is context specific, muscle specific, individual specific, and also what type of fatigue you want to accumulate. Higher reps cause more metabolic fatigue. And so within the context of a workout, they'll make you more tired. And even maybe in the context of a week, they beat you up a little bit more, muscular wise, and sometimes even nervous system wise. Heavy weights beat up your joints and connective tissues more, and they present a higher chance of acute injury. So if you are not particularly strong and you're training delts, you can train with sets of 5 and it's awesome. But if you're really strong and you're training your quads and you've had a little nick before on your quad where you're like, holy shit, like that would have been a tear if I didn't stop, and it really matters to you not to get hurt, sets of 15 are superior because you're probably not going to get hurt. Sets of 5 with leg press, holy shit, that's a lot of weight. And, you know, for folks listening who have lifted weights a lot before, on some compound heavy movements, sets of 5 are just fucking scary. And you palpably like feel the stress in your tendons and muscles where you're like, man, I'm 1 rep away from injury 100% of the time that I'm doing this. Whereas sets of 15 is just not the same situation.
Okay. Cardio. So I listened to your podcast that you did with Luisa Nicola.
Okay.
And you guys, I don't know if you recall this, you talk about people that go to the gym to walk.
Yeah.
So, and I guess, and maybe in that context, you were talking about like people that only go to the gym to walk on the treadmill or whatever. But I see a lot of people, and I do it myself, that their cardio will be walking on a treadmill on an incline, right? And like, and obviously in my case, I combine that with weightlifting. But do you think that, I think a lot of people do that, just from anecdotally what I see in the gym.
Yep.
Is that positive? Is that negative? Is that useless?
It's great. There are 2 reasons to do cardio. One is to expand your daily physical activity into a range that's healthy and burns plenty of fat. It's roughly 8,000 to 12,000 steps per day worth. If you get some of those steps on an incline in the gym and some of those steps walking around the grocery store or some walking your dog, it doesn't matter. So if, like, whatever is good. The other reason to do cardio is to enhance some combination of cardiovascular fitness and even more health benefit. And their intensity matters. Getting out of breath matters. And incline walking on a treadmill probably won't get you out of breath, but incline jogging on a treadmill sure as shit will. And so if you want cardio for better cardiovascular fitness and extra boost to your health and longevity, I would say 3 or more times a week for 15 or more minutes at a time, do a mode of cardio that gets you consistently out of breath. That's a big deal. But if you're just doing it for basic health and basic metabolic function, fat loss, then any form of cardio that gets you enough physical activity that's roughly the equivalent of 10,000 daily steps is totally good to go.
So, and I guess maybe where I got this is vibes too, but like big bodybuilders that are focused on, maintaining as much muscle mass as possible, you would see that, or I would see them doing that, right? Like 20 minutes walking on a steep incline on a treadmill. And then you see, marathon runners who have I guess they have muscle on them, but they're obviously they're working for a different outcome there.
Yep.
So do you think there are misconceptions around cardio eating into your ability to preserve muscle?
Yes. You can do some really hard cardio and lots of it. If you're not ultra lean and you're not ultra hardcore dieting and you're not ultra concerned with maximum muscle, you're going to be totally fine. You're not going to lose any muscle. If you are very lean or trying to optimize muscle gain 100%, lower intensity cardio is definitely the better choice. It's just not as big of a difference as people think. It's real easy for folks to see 5 or 10% differences in outcome and imagine that these are night and day 100% differences in outcome. It's like the difference between how, various NBA players, how good they are in basketball seems massive because some have a ton of fans, some don't, some have crazy stats, some don't. But if you try to play an NBA player who sucks, he's going to make you look like you've never played basketball. You're like, oh shit, it's relative differences up there. Same idea for cardio. You can do almost every kind of cardio unless you become ultra hardcore, ultra fanatical about maintaining strength and muscle. Then you have to do lower intensity cardio and not a ton of it. But for the most part, if you're just a person who goes to the gym, likes to be fit, especially for upper body, you can fucking run and jog and do the elliptical like crazy, and it's probably not going to affect anything.
Do you think that is there an exercise that you see people doing at the gym that is maybe most meaningless, or like this kind of, I don't know how, people do it, but it's really not accomplishing much of anything at all?
It's a lot of exercises. Anything on a balance ball, BOSU ball is preventing your nervous system from activating most of the muscle that grows best. And because unstable training really tells your muscles like, hey, it's unsafe to go hard. And so you're probably going to get very little gain from that sort of thing. And it happens all the fucking time. Training your abs in a way that you think will burn body fat off of them is just misunderstanding physiology. There's almost no local fat burning that happens. It's all systemic. And so training your abs will get you bigger, more muscular abs. They'll poke through a little bit more if you get real serious. But generally, if you want an awesome midsection, you just have to diet the fat down, and voila, everyone has abs somewhere underneath the body fat. So that's another big one. One exercise that just continues to piss me off, no matter how much I try to have a lot of equanimity about it, is the one arm at a time press. So you get both dumbbells, you lock them out, you just do one like this while this arm's just getting tired. And then you do this while this arm's getting pointlessly tired. I would say if you're not training a certain part of your body, make sure it's recovering and not just getting tired, because the amount of effort it takes to hold this out physically distracts you from doing as much as you can on this other arm. And it makes it tired for when it's time to go again. Another equivalent of that is when people will hold 2 dumbbells and they'll do one side curl, right? They're not alternating. Just do one side and they go like this and they do the other side. I'm like, just take one of those dumbbells and put it down and then just do this and then switch hands and do that, or just do both at the same time. That shit fucking kills me. One thing I saw at the gym a while back was a guy doing this curl, and then the other hand he had a dumbbell, but he was holding it at like a 90-degree angle the entire time. And I was just like, oh, cool. We are getting tired for no reason. So isometric contractions do grow muscle. Dynamic contractions typically do it better. So just you don't have to overcomplicate crazy shit. Just do the weights. That kind of stuff gets to me for some reason.
What about gym etiquette? Anything stand out that pisses you off?
People just getting started think the gym is a scary place full of mean people. And that's mostly wrong, because most of those people are super nice or just super self-centered, because that's why people go to the gym. But So you're rarely going to run into this, but if you do, just know that you're in the right and this other person's in the wrong, and feel free to talk to the staff about it. You, as a gym member, are entitled to use a machine that someone else is also using. In almost every case, you just work in with them because they take rest breaks. If they have some kind of crazy drop set, it shouldn't take like longer than 5 or 10 minutes. If it does, they're insane. So you let them finish, but then you're going to be on the machine. So if someone's using a chest press and they're sitting for 2 minutes scrolling on their phone between sets, you are absolutely entitled to be like, hey, do you mind if I work in? The correct answer from them is to say yes. If they say no, then you can probably just shrug it off, or you can go talk to the staff. The staff will at some point inform that person that everyone in the gym is supposed to be working together. You are not entitled to all the machines. That's a big one. Another one is pretty obvious, you would think, racking your weights. Because if you do the leg press with 5 plates, the next person on the leg press is grandma. She might not even be able to unrack your weights because she can't lift 45 fucking pounds. Or she can, but that's half her fucking workout. You're just inconveniencing people. So if you're strong enough to like put the weights on the machine, you're strong enough to take them off afterwards. Another one is trying to put the dumbbells back where you found them. Shit happens, right? People will put dumbbells back in the wrong place, and that starts to, like, it already throws off the whole system. Then you just got to put your dumbbells back wherever. But, you know, if you get the 80s from the 80s slot, which is usually labeled, or it's like, here are the 70s, then there's a missing thing. Then there's the 75s. And like, where do the other 75s go? It wouldn't be there, would it? That'd be crazy. And so some asshole is usually taking the 75s and putting them where the 10s fucking belong. Don't do that. That's absurd. So that's a few common gym etiquette rules. Another one, this is a tough one. Everybody is entitled to make this mistake a bunch, and it's no big deal. But like, try reasonably not to smell like total shit.
Oh, God, dude, I'm so glad you said that.
But it's tough, right? Because sometimes, like, you're with yourself all the time. You can't always smell yourself. I can typically smell myself, so I'll be like, oh, hell no, deodorant, or shower before gym, because I'm just not going to do this to people. But, man, some people, and it's usually just genetic, like they got that shit. You got to do something about that, man, because it can get really, really intense. And like, man, again, I was at a gym recently, zero details. There was a gentleman in there, super nice. He owned an entire floor of the gym. Like, it was a multi-level gym, and my friend and I were training, and her and I walked down to the level we were at before, and we were like, oh, he's still here.
Yeah.
We didn't even see him. It was insane. It was like chemical warfare.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal, because holy crap, we're all using the gym together. And the thing is, it sucks because a lot of that's just straight up genetic. But there are antiperspirants. Some of them are commercial grade. You can look into it. Dry salt. Google dry salt. It's great. When my family came here as Russian immigrants, we went through this program called the Jewish Family Service. It was like this community program where they help you out in a bunch of ways, but one of them is like teaching you how culture works. And they legitimately will tell my mom worked for the service eventually later. Part of her job was to tell Russian immigrants, this is what deodorant is, because we basically just didn't have that in Russia back in communism. Here's how you're going to put it on. It is expected that you not smell. This is what you can do to fit in, you assimilate in the United States. And most of them were like, oh, thanks, I didn't fucking know that. And boom, I put it on. So, friends and family, it's your responsibility to do that. If my friends don't tell me I smell, and we're training together, and after the gym, they're like, dude, you smell like shit. What the fuck is wrong with you? Because regular people, you can't expect them to fucking tell you. At some point, you get desensitized to your own shit. You don't know if you smell. It is absolutely on your friends and family.
Mm. How old were you when you moved from Russia?
7.
Do you remember any of that?
Tons.
What stands out?
I had a pretty idyllic childhood, minus a couple of weird totalitarian things that are like, oh, we don't live in a free society. My parents were upper middle class in Moscow, which was the central city of Russia. It was at the same time true to say that, and true to say that they stood in bread lines for hours to get us food. Getting whole chickens that were not totally defunct was like a magical thing that didn't happen all the time. We would buy bananas several times a year when they became available, and they were teeny tiny and completely green. And we would have to stick them in every part of our house and under the bed so that they ripened. which was a thing because it was unbelievably exotic food. The first time I came to America, the first week that we were here, bananas are like free, more or less here. And so I ate so many bananas that I just didn't like them afterwards. And I still am not a big fan of bananas. Like I overdid it.
Not for the taste, just for the shape.
Love the shape. Cucumbers also work there. Other than that, it was totally fine. I did experience direct racial discrimination from my preschool teachers. He mocked me for being Jewish. That was fun. You have a good day at work when you mocked a 4-year-old for his race. It was like totally accepted there to do that. It's one of the reasons we left.
Like, what's an example of that you remember?
Yeah. They would say my last name and sneer at it. I can't get away from that last name. And I didn't understand it as racial discrimination at the time, but my parents sure explained to me what was going on there. I mean, in my parents' generation, it was like way worse because you show up to a job interview and you have the wrong last name. You're just not getting that job. That's a real legit thing. Boo-hoo, we did fine, but it was a real thing. Not terrible, but it was. And then here's a trippy idea. My parents at one point told my sister and I how much total money we had. There was no credit system. So like how much money you had saved was all the money you had. And if you wanted to buy a car, you had to have the cash amount of money to buy that car. Like if a car was $18,000, I remember like at the time, one of the standard Russian cars was $18,000 and we had $18,000 as a family. And so we could have all of our money traded away and get a car. There was no credit. It didn't exist. Like, think about that. That's fucking insane. And so I remember in the elevator once, there were some people and I told them how much money we had. And afterwards, my parents pulled me aside and were like, never, ever, ever do that. And they explained to me why. Because people will get jealous, they'll report you to the Communist Party and all of a sudden you won't have money or freedom or something like that. It was like a real thing. And I remember being young and being like, whoa, what the fuck? Because like in America, it's just unbecoming to tell people how much money you have because it's weird, but no one's going to. Can you imagine Elon Musk telling someone like, I have billions of dollars? They'd be like, okay. They're not going to like report you. There's nowhere to report you. So can you imagine like you get the government on the phone. You're like, how do I rat someone out? Like for what? They're like, you can rat them out to the IRS, but like, oh, this guy filed his taxes. The IRS is like, hey, it's fine. His taxes are legit. They don't give a fuck. In the Soviet Union, it was possible to get people in really, really deep shit because you didn't like them. And so you just kind of never put that out there into the world. Funny enough, in Korea, South Korea, it is perfectly admissible for a taxi driver to turn around as he's driving you and ask you how much money you make per month. It's totally culturally acceptable. Isn't that wild?
To other South Koreans or anyone?
Anyone.
What's that about?
But I don't know. So in a sense, if you think about it, you're like, well, you do make a certain amount of money. So what?
It's honestly, it's interesting when you say that because I think that a lot of people are kind of averse to talking about money in America. It's like this weird taboo thing, yet it's like it's the most normal thing ever. But it's this weird like disclosure of like you're seeing me naked kind of. Yes. I don't know.
So it goes in a few ways. One is like exploitation. Like if you know someone has a lot of money, you might be not a very nice person. You might try to ransom them somehow or get something on them. Or also like people will try to like glob onto you if you have lots of money to try to see how they can get some. Like if you're like, oh, I have millions. Like, oh, well, here's my resume. You're like, I'm not taking resumes, sir. And like, oh, but what? How did you blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of annoying. You just kind of want to fit in and be one of the people. If you don't have a lot of money, it's fucking embarrassing to tell people how much you make because they're like, oh, you suck. And I'm, yeah, see, they kick dirt at you or whatever, and they're as they fly away and they're dirigible. And so the rich, as we call them. So like, you know, there's all kinds of like it's super loaded thing because money's like a really people attach a lot of value psychologically to money, which makes sense because money's a big deal. But I guess in Korea, it's just a super matter of fact. Maybe it's because like, well, this is how much money I make. And they're like, okay. But they also judge the fuck out of each other in South Korea for money and career and stuff like that. It's super important. They judge each other for how they look, for how tall they are. Here's a trippy one. South Koreans really give a shit about head size. Reference to their body size. They have large heads and small bodies. They hate it. And so if you are like a white dude who's really tall and you have like a smaller size head and a bigger body, you're like instantly God over there. It's like a real thing. Koreans, get out there in the comments. It's a real thing. And so they actually, they're a society of judging the living fuck out of each other, but everyone's kind of into judging and being judged, and it's kind of like whatever. Not to say that some people really don't like that and they leave or they have a really bad time, but I think in American, European countries, we have like more propriety in some sense. And so, yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I've been asked directly how much money I make before. Usually I'll just answer the question. Like if, like I'm famous enough now to where if you want to like ransom me, like you can always find out where I live and kidnap me or whatever. I'll just use sexual favors to get out. It's a secret fantasy. It's not a secret at all.
Like, how do I get rid of this guy? I don't care.
Oh no, you got me. They're like, get out of here, like fucking asshole.
Speaking of money, like how do you think, I've been thinking about this. Do you think that money fundamentally changes people or just amplifies their tendencies and who they already are?
That's a great question. It probably is both. My personal bullshit off the cuff hypothesis. I've considered this a little bit because I used to have like negative money. I mean, so I grew up in communism, which is like your money's worthless. Cool, you have money, it buys nothing. And then grew up in America for the most part, very low class, then lower middle class, then middle class. Then eventually when I was in college, my parents are upper middle or something like that. And then, in college and in grad school and in some of my working days, I had like 1 year I made $14,000 that year. So that's below the poverty line, by the way. I was like, yay. And then, started RP, started selling books, templates, software, and then like infinity volcano money, nonsense money. So I've been on both ends of that spectrum. And I was always very keen because I was already an adult when I was making lots of money. I was like, okay, the last thing I ever want to be is a rich asshole. Ever. Because like, what a fucking lame look. And I'm like ethically like super pro capitalism. Like I've read all the Ayn Rand books and shit like that. And I think that rich people do themselves a massive disservice when they're assholes because you rep your set, you rep who you are. Whatever race or ethnicity you are, don't pretend that you're not repping who the fuck you are. Like when I'm talking to black people, I'm representing white people for sure. And so I'm a fucking racist piece of shit. That's one more person that thinks white people are fucking awful. And if a black person I talk to comes to a conversation not really liking white people, but I pop off with the jokes and the bullshit, they're going to leave that conversation and be like, okay, not all whites are pieces of shit. And then you get that inception in there and you're fucking on your way to like that person, maybe their friends are like, yeah, white people suck. And they're in the back like, ha ha ha. And they're kind of like, I don't know if that's true. Many people in the US have had an experience of like one awesome black friend and you just can't be racist anymore. Because some like racist ass will be like, fuck black people. Am I right? You're like, my friend Will is amazing. I'm never going to get on board with that. It's crazy. Same thing works for income categories. You meet some rich guy in a fucking plane, like the business class or whatever on the plane. And you're like, man, get out of my way. See? And he knocks you off to get into this shit. You're like, fuck these rich people. And then show him Sam Mamdani gets on his shit. You're like, fucking burn him. Drag out the billionaires, light them on fire. I'm in. But if you meet a person who's super fucking rich and he's just like the kindest person in the world to you, and then your friends are like, fuck the rich. You're like, I don't know, man. They're really cool. So, it was always important for me not to be a piece of shit about money and like wealth and all that stuff. And so I was like, okay, Israetel, like the more money I made, I was like, don't become an asshole. Don't become an asshole. Don't become an asshole. Maybe that prevented me from becoming an asshole. I'm still I was a piece of shit before though. So that all was constant. But, maybe if you don't keep track of that, you can get a little carried away. There's absolutely a feeling you get once you start making a lot of money. Your brain automatically does the saddest bullshit where you see someone like you're flying business class and you see people in the economy line. You're like, my word. Like it fucking hits a real thing. And then if you're flying economy, you're kind of like, well, these people should know that I don't have to fly economy. And like these thoughts are in my head. I'm like, what are you doing, brain? That's the dumbest shit in the entire fucking history of the world. If you don't check yourself, you might start to believe the hype. And then you start thinking you're better. Same thing occurs with fame. Once you get a little famous, you're like, fuck all these normies. And you're like, no, you're going to be a normie tomorrow because people are going to stop giving a shit. However, so I think there is absolutely a way to like change with the money. But I think the vast fraction of who people are is probably culturally determined by the time that you're 18 or so. And then if you come into a lot of money, but you're a really kind person, you're just going to be a really kind person. If you come into a lot of money and you were an asshole before the money, holy shit. Now you just have like ways of expressing your assholeness, which are like magnified by money. So I do definitely think that it's mostly who you are and it's kind of revealed. The same thing occurs with money. If you have a lot of money and you're a piece of shit, you can really show off your shittiness. It occurs with fame. It occurs with any kind of talent. People being like, oh my God, you're good at gymnastics. And now you're like, I'm better than everyone. Because you always thought you were better than everyone, but now you get to show off and be better than everyone. It occurs with looks. Like some hot girls are just really kind people. And maybe before they were sexually appealing, when they were children, they were really nice. And then they become sexually super attractive once they mature. And they're just really nice. And you're like, oh my God, Lindsay's so hot, but she's so kind. Like, all hot girls must be kind because they're hot. Maybe not. Then you have like Sally, who was a little kid and she was a piece of shit, mean person. And then she matured into a woman and she got really fucking hot and she's a mean piece of shit. And you're like, these hot girls are all mean. Like, nope, the Sally was just always fucking mean. That wealth, attractiveness, all that stuff, all the ways in which we differentiate status, I think most people just take their genetic and cultural meanness or niceness with them and then just have a chance to express it.
We really took a detour there, huh?
Sure did.
So as far as fat loss goes, I guess the question would be how much of fat loss is just diet?
Most. There is a certain amount of physical activity that plays into fat loss and a certain amount of resistance training. So resistance training just makes sure that when you're doing like lifting weights, you're losing fat instead of muscle. It preserves your muscle because otherwise it's weight loss, and some of that weight, a substantial amount, can actually be muscle. So you've seen some of the stuff with the new GLP-1 drugs like, Ozempic and Mounjaro and stuff. People lose a lot of muscle, but it's really because they just lose a lot of weight. Most of them don't eat enough protein and they don't lift weights. And so they end up losing muscle. So lifting weights is critical for fat loss to make sure that it's fat loss and not weight loss. The other thing is physical activity absolutely burns calories, but your body controls physical activity very tightly and controls total energy expenditure very tightly. So if you like really raise your physical activity, you do a ton of cardio, your body becomes more efficient and it reduces the amount of calories it burns at other times of the day, and it ends up not making such a big impact. But diet has an enormous impact in both directions on fat loss. Direction number one is if you lower your caloric intake to create a big deficit, it's going to cause a lot of weight loss. Number two is if you are really active and you lift weights and you eat healthy, but you don't have a caloric deficit, it will be almost impossible for you to lose a lot of fat. And a lot of people make that mistake because it's just super, super big deal. People start eating healthy, they eat lots of nut butters, whole grain pastas with olive oil-based sauces, and all of a sudden they're just like eating really healthy, which is great, but they're not losing weight because a calorie deficit is the number one fat loss vector that we have. It's huge. So the best way to lose fat is have roughly 10,000 steps a day worth of activity, and you can get that in a bunch of different ways, 8 to 12,000, and resistance train, lift weights multiple times a week to keep your muscle on your body, and then you're just going to eat less food without cutting your protein, so either less carbs or less fat or some combo of both, to create something like a 500 calorie daily deficit. So if you typically maintain it at 3,000 calories a day, if you eat roughly 2,500 calories a day, you lose about a pound of fat per week. You do that for about 8 to 12 weeks. Go back to maintenance for something like 4 to 6 weeks after that. Give your body a bit of a break, and then you can do fat loss visits again if you like.
Okay, so you mentioned the caloric surplus and deficit. What are the other fundamentals that people need to know about food and about diet?
There is a short list of food that it's pretty much guaranteed to be healthy, which you should be eating of most. It's spread into lean protein sources, meats, dairy products, vegan products. Most of those are not ultra processed, so just like basic cuts of beef and chicken and ground beef, stuff like that, milk, etc. You can have veggies, fruits, and whole grains for carbs. And you can have healthy fats, which are mostly nuts, nut butters, and various oils like olive oil, canola oil, etc. Those are the food groups that are fundamentally the healthiest for you. When they're minimally processed, that's best. If you have 3 to 5 meals a day with a core of lean protein, and plenty of veggies, and to fill out the rest of your calories, some combination of fruits, whole grains, or healthy fats on top of that, That is what basic good dieting looks like. That's kind of the template. And if you want to gain weight, you can increase your carbs and fats. If you want to lose weight, you can decrease your carbs and fats. If you want to live a healthy, awesome, balanced lifestyle, you can eat mostly like that, and every now and again just have some bullshit cheat meals, no problem. But that's kind of where everything starts from. And I think a lot of people who want to lose fat or gain muscle, if they don't have that protein, veggie core 3 to 5 times a day with healthy carbs and fats on top, as a structure, they get really, really lost in what to do because they fall for all kinds of crazy, unsustainable fad diets. But that structure of eating 3 to 5 meals per day of mostly protein, some veggies, as many veggies as you like, really, and then a combination of whole grains, fruits, and healthy fats, if you do that, then that is like the most stable baseline of eating that you should be doing kind of all the time as a default. And then you increase or decrease based on your needs. One of the number one things in fat loss is building up the habits to eat well and then tuning things after that.
And so for, I guess, muscle gain, is a gram of protein per pound of body weight, is that a rule of thumb? Is that steadfast?
It's a rule of thumb. In many cases, you can gain a lot of muscle without eating as much. You can get like 3/4 to even 2/3 of that and still gain really good muscle. If you're ultra advanced and you want elite gains, it is hypothetically possible that 1.5 times that amount might give you another 5% more muscle growth or something. So like if you weigh 200 pounds, maybe you can eat 300 grams of protein per day if you really just push it to the max. That's not a very defensible position, but it's theoretically possible and there's some scientific literature to support it. But generally speaking, you can't really go wrong with a gram per pound per day. So if you weigh 200 pounds, eat 200 grams of protein in, let's say, about 3 to 5 meals. So let's take 4 meals there. Each one has 50 grams of protein. Man, like that is such a solid recommendation. A thing I'll say is this, and we might be doing some videos on the RP Strength channel about this kind of thing. I was actually talking to ChatGPT about this recently. A lot of people just get really obsessed about majoring in the minors and obsessed with minutia. There's a time and place for that when you're optimizing. But if you're optimizing without doing the basics, you're doing yourself a really, really serious disservice. And the first thing you should be asking is, how do I do the basics correctly? And then after that, you go on and you can tweak for more advanced, more technical, more nuanced, more individualized applications. But you gotta be able to do the basics right. And a gram per protein per pound of body weight spread over 3 to 5 meals, roughly even per day, even in timing of the meals and even in how much protein is per meal, is one of those things that if you're not doing and you ask me nutritional questions to optimize your plan, I just almost don't even know how to answer. It's like asking how to shoot well and moving targets, but you don't go to the range ever. I'm like, but you don't shoot. So what the fuck are you talking about? And it's so common. And I think a part of that is people want to feel advanced and ask the advanced questions, but a part of that is people have a hacking mindset. I have trouble maintaining like emotional equanimity when in discussing the idea of hacking your way to anything. I remember there was like some article I read by a software guy, and he had a more expansive definition of hacking, which was like trying to optimize any system. And I'm like, that is the most like dog shit definition I've ever heard in my entire life. Hacking is basically trying to take a system and exploit it for something it was not optimized to do. It is like almost definitionally a shortcut. And the thing is with nutrition, you want the very opposite of hacking to be where you start. You want solid basics. Like, it's almost like people who don't know how to shoot properly talking about like what kind of scope they want on their pistol or whatever, right? Or whatever like sights they want. And it's like, my friend, one of these is going to be 98% of your ability to shoot. One might be 2 in context. What the fuck are you doing? And ostensibly people want results, like in pistol shooting and also in like body fat and all this stuff. And so it pains me on a personal level to have people ask questions that are ultra nuanced and ultra advanced when they aren't doing the basics. When they're doing the basics, I can't wait to answer advanced questions. It's my most favorite thing to talk about. But when people aren't doing the basics and they ask advanced stuff, it's just like such a giant disservice, and it just gets me all the time.
100%. Dude, it's funny. Again, you brought up shooting. I had a guy, I don't know if you'd be familiar with Ben Stager is his name.
Watched your interview with him.
Did you? No shit. Okay.
I love his sense of humor.
Yeah, exactly. Very like flat to the point.
Amazing.
Does not throw in any fluff. I think that's what people like about him because like whether you like the answer or not, that it is true and unfiltered.
Yes.
And anyway, that's what he said. He's like people will comment sometimes and ask about these small nuanced differences, and he's like, okay, there's a lot of people that are commenting, and I have to decide which ones to respond to. Like, is it worth explaining to you the nuanced differences between the recoil impulse of a Glock 47 and a Glock 19 when you don't even fucking shoot?
Yep.
That guy knows, Ben knows, because he's shot tens of millions of rounds or however. But I don't know what that is psychologically. If people are looking for like the quick fix on,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But it's like the fundamentals take work, and they're often not so fun.
Not just the quick fix. Yes, the quick fix. I got another one for you. They're looking for the unlock. That one, like you're fucking playing like the fucking Zelda games and you like hit the fucking key and the one thing and the painting shifts and then it opens a fucking portal. Finally level 19. It's taking me forever. That's the kind of shit that people think like that's how reality operates. And in the realm of most things, it's not. And looking for unlocks is just a giant dark hallway to nowhere in most cases. Stop looking for unlocks. That little one trick that's going to fix everything. It's an understandable human drive to do that. Why? Because unlocks, almost by definition, tiny input for maximum output. The ROI on that's enormous. But what if I told you that it's a tiny input for a teeny tiny output, but you indexed for hours on this, constructing this tiny input and looking for the fucking key to go in the painting to make it all work? So that unlock mentality. And here's the thing is, there are no shortage of people on YouTube, in podcasts, in books that are going to profit from people's intuitive look for the unlock to tell them they have it. Or at least a thumbnail and title in such a way that is to seem that they have it. Fuck, we probably do that at RP. The unlock to maximum gains. People love it. Fucking click on that shit. I wish we just had an ability to say boring shit and people would click on it, but they don't. And so people are looking for unlocks and they find a few unlocks because they do exist in real life in a few different ways. And then they just assume the unlocks are everywhere and everything is about finding the big unlock. And that is doing a massive disservice to people's fitness goals and their goals in just about everything else in life. Don't look for the unlock. Look for dependable strategies that you can apply consistently that will compound on themselves and transform you over time. You know what the unlock is? 5 years of consistency. Like, fuck, and that doesn't feel like an unlock, but it's going to get you the results. And there is no conspiracy. If I had an unlock, don't you think I would put it in my app and charge you $19.99 per month or whatever the fuck? Of course I would. But like that looking for the things that don't exist, that is one of my biggest, it's not even a pet peeve, it's a tragedy, because so many of these people are not attending to the basics they should be, and they're not getting results. They'll ask you specific questions about minutia. I'll have people, talk to me who are like very overweight, and they're just trying their best. And they'll talk about specific sources of carbohydrates. Like, so is it white rice or brown rice? I just want to bitch, are you out of your fucking mind? You think the 18,000 fucking calories you're eating over 2 days and fucking matters what source they come from? I could get you leaner on a diet of only protein shakes and ice cream if you just controlled the amounts. The nuanced amounts is like the actual brown rice versus white rice. It's like for competitive pro bodybuilders to see what they should carb up with when they're eating 1,200 grams before they hit the stage tomorrow. A little bit more distension from brown rice, a little less distension from white rice, a little bit more filling. That's who it matters for. It's like asking like what like kind of fuel you should be putting in your car. The shit they sell at the fucking gas station, motherfucker. Like, you're not driving an F1 car. It's not going to burn out the engine and cost you $12,000 to replace a fucking spark plug because you put the wrong fuel in. That's not your job. It's not your situation. It's cool. It would. It's cool if there was some kind of unlock, but man, it's just like, it's like that like meme they have where it's like two different little stations and there's names above both, like little like kiosks, and there's a huge line for one kiosk and no line for the other one. It's like dependable basics, there's nobody in it. crazy unlocks. It's like 1,000 people in that line, but the tickets they're getting out of that, they just don't cash out much.
This is probably a hypothesis, but I think that most people that ask questions like that haven't actually gone out and tested it for themselves, because if they did, they would know the answer and they would know it really fucking fast. And they would know that those little things don't actually move the needle. Yeah. Like I could go on and on about the shooting stuff because that's something that I've picked up recently that I enjoy, and like getting into the actual training aspect of it. But okay, so just to circle back of the actual like content of the food, you just brought up like brown rice, white rice. So for example, like if I had a target, just for one specific meal, let's say if I had a 50 gram of carb target for this meal, does it make no difference to my ability to burn fat and build muscle, whether that 50 grams is however much 50 grams of brown rice is versus however much 50 grams of like white bread or pasta is? Does it not actually matter?
It can matter in ways that are not direct. So if we had you in a laboratory and we constrained you to eating certain foods, and you didn't get to pick your foods, we could feed you almost every kind of food and it would matter almost not at all for your results. As long as you met your macro targets, proteins, carbs, fats. The sources matter almost not at all. However, certain foods can cause differences in how you react. Two very important differences come to mind. One is how cravey that food makes you for more food right then and there, / how full. And another one is like, when are you going to get hungry again? So if you have low fat and high glycemic carb, you're going to end up like a bunch of white bread. You're going to end up like probably getting hungry 2 hours sooner than otherwise, overeating on that next meal and then getting fatter. If you had some kind of slow digesting carb, like green apple slices, you would be not hungry at all for your next meal, be able to control your calories really well and have a really good time. But per meal, white bread versus green apples causes roughly the same amount of fat loss, which is just based on calories and carbohydrate amounts.
Interesting. Okay, along those lines, cheat meals, cheat days. There's plenty of stuff out there on the internet about them actually being productive, you know, stuff like that. What's the truth there?
You can spread people into kind of two categories, and there's a ton of a mixture between the two categories, but it is a bit of a bimodal distribution. There are people that when they're doing a really boring hardcore fat loss diet and you give them a cheat meal a week or something like that, it really livens them up. They really enjoy it. It checkboxes the craving, and then they're well on their way. The analogy here, again, for me, stupid sexual analogies come up, is like jerking off. Like if you just get to jerk off once a day, you're not going to go insane. If I say you have to not jerk off for a week and not get any kind of sexual release, you're going to go insane. So like that does work in some contexts. The trouble with cheat meals is that there's another group of people, which is probably outnumbering the first group, in which when they're on a hardcore fat loss diet, the cheat meal just makes them want more cheat meal. And if they don't have the cheat meal, they're not reminded that the cheat meal is a thing.
Yes.
It's not really checking a box, it's making the desire even greater. That analogy in the sexual realm would be like, if you're trying not to jerk off, no, not November, do you take 20 minutes every night to just look at porn and not touch yourself? That would be the stupidest thing you could ever do, because you'd be like, now I want to do it. But like, if you just didn't look at it, it just would be like, nobody lost, nobody found. So you have to experiment with who you are. And if you learn that you're the kind of person for whom cheat meals really set them off on like a binge, do not have cheat meals. If you're the kind of person who has a cheat meal and it's like, oh man, that made me right as rain and I can do another hardcore week of dieting. Hey, shit, amazing. The problem is the vast majority of people, in my opinion, who struggle with weight loss are in the shouldn't have cheat meals group. There's another issue. If you're just starting out losing fat or you're very overweight, cheat meals are usually totally fine because you're not psychotic yet. Your body's not trying to glub onto every possible calorie it can. The longer you diet for, the leaner you get relatively, and the leaner you get absolutely, the more that cheat meals tend to send you into a psychotic state of like, I need fucking more of this. I'm not going to stretch this analogy too far, but in the, say it's the intelligence community, I guess, but there's a way of leading people who like you have captured to try to get intel from to the edge. One of them is just like, sleep deprivation, you beat the shit out of them, play loud music. It works, but some people harden up and they just throw up two middle fingers and it'll be like, I'm going to die here. I don't give a fuck. You guys aren't getting shit. And then they become intractable to get any more information out of, and you're just not going to get anything out of them. But the better way to do it, quote unquote, apparently, is you combine a whole lot of making them very uncomfortable with a relief. You give them a cigarette, you give them a sandwich, you give them cold water to drink, you turn off the loud music, you give them a comfortable chair, you treat them with dignity. And then you try to see if they'll answer a question, something innocent. And you build this addiction cycle of compliance. When I get something nice, when I am nice to the intelligence officer, they give me nice things. They let me have a breathing room. That will crack most people. Cheat meals work in a similar way. If you just say the next 6 weeks, I'm not going to cheat, you lose that light at the end of the tunnel. Because the light at the end of the tunnel is too far away. Just shut up and grind. And then it's not a problem anymore because you're not like, oh, when's my cheat meal? But if you're really curious about when your next cheat meal is, a couple of days before your cheat meal, you start getting real crazy. The cheat meal has this whole ritualistic thing to it. You try to eat as much as you can, and then the cheat meal's over, you get super sad and depressed, and then you get rebound hunger, and you get bloated, and it's this terrible, terrible cycle. So the leaner you get, the more the cheat meals start to be a real, real bad idea. And I got another thing to say is this. If the first question that you have before starting a diet is, am I allowed cheat meals? You need to re-examine your state of mind. Your real first question should be like, how do I do this diet best to succeed? Quick analogy. If you are told, here is a task that you're pretty good at. If you do this task excellently, for every hour that you do this task for 10 hours, we are going to give you $1 million an hour. At what point do you ask about breaks? You don't get paid on break. I mean, unless you're Jeff Bezos or something, you'd have to be insane to ask about a break. They'd be like, do you have any questions before starting? I'd be like, yes. When do I start? If you want the money, so if you want the leanness, your question should be like, how do I burrow into a diet that makes me my most successful? But if your first question is, how do I get a cheat meal? It's kind of like being like, we're going to pay you $1 million an hour. You're like, yeah, like, do I get breaks? Like the people sitting next to you in the game show will be like, are you out of your fucking mind? I'll do his job. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Number of meals. Does it matter so much if you can hit your targets in maybe 2 or even 1 meal versus spreading them out into like 4 or 5 or 6? Does it matter?
Yes. Let me answer this by giving a visual. Imagine a bell curve, and the bell curve is measuring probability of success on your diet. And the probability of success is measured in like how high the bell curve goes. Okay? And that's the y-axis. On the x-axis is number of meals per day. Probably about 4 meals per day for the average person is going to be where that bell curve is the highest. And it's really high at 3 and it's really high at 5. As you go out to 6, 7, 8, 9 on the one end and 2 and 1 meals on the other end, or alternate day fasting, which is 0 meals on some days, your probability of being successful on a diet, keeping muscle, losing fat, starts to drop off because of psychological and physiological reasons. To retain and grow the most muscle, 2 meals beats 1, 3 beats 2, 4 probably beats 3, 5 and 4 are usually undifferentiable. From the perspective of hunger management, it's tough to do 1 meal and manage your hunger well because holy shit, half the day you're fucking starving. Some people can do it though, so this is just averages. From the perspective of energy levels, it's really tough to have high daily energy with 1 fucking meal. Because you're going to have a lot of energy at one point of the day and a lot of lethargy from consuming a meal that big and a lot of not energy the other part of the day. Sleep optimization, again, very tough to do with 1 meal. On the other end of the spectrum, you can try to do 8 meals a day. What are the problems you run into? Sustainability. How hard is it to eat sustainability-wise, habit-wise, 1 meal a day? It's the easiest thing in the world. Holy shit. It fits into any schedule. 8 meals a day fits into almost no schedule. It's just super fucking annoying. And the ROI on that doesn't exist. It's 0. And so at some point you realize that 3, 4, or 5 meals a day for most people are just about the best on all of these metrics, and they average out to being like, this is a really good idea. 3, 4, or 5 evenly spaced meals per day. If you're really serious about your results, 4 or 5. If you want a simple structure to not overcomplicate your shit and you just want basic results, 3 meals a day is totally great.
How about organic foods?
One of the biggest persistent myths of all time in nutrition. Organic doesn't really even have a technical definition because its technical definition's from chemistry. Organic means involving the carbon atom. That's it. Organic chemistry is chemistry around carbon atom assemblies. So like inorganic phosphate, the chemical, does not have carbon in it. That's why it's called inorganic. It's not because it has weird chemically vibes. Organic in the food industry does not have a tenable definition, but it's got a vibes definition that we can respect. And it's like, doesn't use most kinds of pesticides, but it's not all kinds of pesticides. Some pesticides are organic, like horse manure is something you can put and you can treat food with, and it's considered organic. But literal horse shit, I don't know if that's good for you. It's probably not, right? But it's natural, so it's okay. And so organic kind of ends up having no technical definition, but the vibes definition, it's more natural-y than not. The thing about it is that this is a false dichotomy. It is true to say that some things that are artificial are bad for you. Hell yeah. It's also true to say that some natural things are bad for you. Some artificial things are really good for you. Some natural things like really fresh fruits and veggies are amazing for you. Some natural things like snake bite are really bad for you, and exposure. You look like you're in the forest. You're going to spend the night. You're like alone, but it's really cold. Like, good luck. Mother Nature will take care of you. That's insane. Bacterial infections are natural as fuck, by the way. There are artificial chemicals and stuff. Some of the preservatives they use in cured meats and stuff, they're really bad for you. But also whey protein and casein protein are highly processed, and they're really good for you. And when you get into real deep shit and you need antibiotics, those are as artificial as they get. But like, they're good for you because they save your life. Organic food specifically is a subset of the naturalistic fallacy or argument from nature, which is a fallacy, has been tested numerous times in a bunch of comprehensive reviews and meta-analyses over many years now, 20 plus years. They find some small differences here and there. In some nutrients, conventional produce is better. In some, it's worse. In some, organic produce is better. Some, it's worse. On taste, organic food is better, usually because it is not as transportable and thus is fresher. If you equate for freshness, no one can tell the difference between organic and conventional produce. On overall health outcomes and nutrient quality, on aggregate, there is no difference between organic food and conventionally farmed food. And there's one absolute, definite, massive difference between those two foods. Price. Organic food is a way for rich white people to signal that they're good people. I was going to have a joke there, but that's really what it is. And so organic is, if you want to really overpay for food that is statistically undifferentiable, then you can do organic food. It's a signaling mechanism by which people tell themselves and other people that they're good and that they care about their health. For those that are trying to signal. For the rest, they're just uninformed and don't know that organic is a gigantic fucking ripoff. Because it is. While we're on the subject, people bring up the idea of pesticides. Pesticide residue, the amount of pesticide left on a food after washing and processing and when you get it at the store and you eat it, is incredibly well controlled by multiple governing bodies in every country you've ever been to that's in the modern world. The statistical data collected off of how much pesticide you can eat and it's safe and unsafe is massive. Every single pesticide in the United States, including all the big bad evil ones made by all the big bad evil corporations, cause statistically undetectable amounts of health problems over the human lifespan, including cancer. And you can do this, you can dig into the studies, and you'll find the same thing. You can also go on various websites on the internet and hear various people talk in various videos where they take one or two studies completely out of context maybe on purpose, maybe not, and say pesticides are bad for you. Human exposure to pesticide in the modern world is simply not a health concern, as far as we can tell. And being concerned about pesticides, if you really are concerned about pesticides, you would have to be concerned, I say this all the time, about going out into the sun at all, because the sun is a giant thermonuclear bomb and shoots pure radiation at you. So just never, ever, ever go into the sun if you're going to worry about pesticides, because the sun is for sure carcinogenic and pesticides are for sure not in any normal exposure that you get, straight up. And these are things that people have a lot of feelings about. And telling people that organic food is a giant fucking scam, and telling them that there is no realistic need to be concerned about pesticides in the modern world, modern US, modern Europe, it throws people off because it's so far afield of their intuition. And it's a tough sell. But I hate to see people be two things. One, ripped off. It's like, you're paying double for organic food. Why? And the other thing is, I hate to see people be worried about things they shouldn't be worried about. You can just have a good time and eat a bunch of food and never have to worry about pesticides. If you want extra things to worry about, you should worry about the condition of the peoples of the third world, who you should be trying to help architect better economies and societies for them, because they're suffering, and about 50,000 other actual bad things in our world. But pesticides are not one of them.
So what are the actual parameters for something to fall into that category of organic to be sold to us with that label on it?
There is no universally accepted definition of organic. But various industry associations have their own. Usually, like certain pesticides, they'll say are not organic approved. Certain ones, certain kinds of manures are organic approved, and it's fuzzy lines all the way down. So, because remember, the term organic actually has a technical definition. It means involves the carbon atom, which every single natural and artificial ingredient mostly has carbon in it. So already that's completely out of the picture.
What about the other conditions, like stuff like the way the animals are kept and treated, what they're eating, if they're being injected with hormones, stuff like that?
You got it. If animals are allowed healthier diets and they are allowed free range to have physical activity, their meat is to a small, very small, but measurable extent healthier for you. Hormones have absolutely no effect on you whatsoever, because the hormones animals get, the animal meat is tested extensively for hormones and milk. The levels they come in with are basically statistically undifferentiable from zero. And also, the vast majority of hormones you can't eat because you have to inject, because your stomach just breaks them down. If you had growth hormone in cow milk that I could buy, I could stop spending $1,000 a month on pharmaceutical fucking growth hormone. You feel me? I would just drink that milk. It would be the greatest goddamn thing that ever happened. But every bodybuilder will tell you that unfortunately that is not a reality. And so you never have to worry about hormones in meat. Every time companies have messaging on their packages that says hormone-free meat, they are messaging to concerned, wealthy white people. No offense, white people, y'all are great. But, you know what I'm saying, we all do dumb shit sometimes. How the animals are raised, the most pertinent thing about that is ethics. Factory farming is disgusting. It will age very poorly. And the sooner we can get to treating animals with massive respect and allowing them to have massive pastures and natural social interaction and only harvesting them for meat when they're at the end of their lives and otherwise keeping them free of disease and predation, we will be doing a really good service to our animal friends. Short of that, what we are doing with animals is an unconscionable fucking crime against sentient life. And I'm a meat eater and a piece of shit for it. And as soon as we can have lab-grown meat, holy fuck, is that going to be amazing. I'll be the first person to switch to that shit. But we can all hunt, fish, etc. That's super ethical. And we can all be eating ethically sourced meat where the animals are treated really well and not killed in the prime of their lives and not kept in like veal containers or whatever where the cows are not allowed to move. That shit is awful. That's a big deal. Health-wise, none of that shit matters much.
So, and I guess, obviously we have these governing bodies and administrations to determine, what trace amount, if that's what it's called, is safe for the human condition. But or the human body. But I guess what people hypothesize is that, sure, in the days and weeks and months of you eating that food, there's no noticeable difference and it's totally fine. But there's a lot of people that think after a lifetime of eating that food is when those things start to seep in. What you're saying is there's no data to suggest that at all.
There is data to suggest that doesn't happen, because they do cohort analyses of like millions of people at the same time through the entire lifespan. And they know for almost a fact that pesticide residues do not affect lifespan health conditions. That's how intense the studies are. It's not just like they test the shit for a few weeks and they're like, nothing happened. They're not, it's actually better than that. It's not just lifespans, it's generations. Most of these pesticides have been around for literal human generations. And there's not a goddamn shred of repeatable, consistent evidence showing us that these cause any kind of major or even minor health differences among humans. And if and when they find them, boom, those shits are off the market right away. But it's been a long time since they found anything, years and years and decades that did anything to that extent. Professional toxicologists get no love. It is their job to do this. It is a very straightforward job. Almost always, when people are talking about pesticides or long-term health risks, they're speaking from a point of either purposeful or accidental total ignorance. And I don't mean to be a dick about it. That's just how it is. People will hypothesize things that already have answers. What about the long-term side effects? Did you ChatGPT that? No. Okay, you can do it. They talk ChatGPT. It's like, yes, actually, they looked into it. It's not a thing. Like, People suspect it, though, and they feel like it should be true. This happens with all kinds of drugs, too. So, like, the modern weight loss drugs, GLPs. People are like, what about the long-term side effects? Well, they've been around since the early 2000s, prescribed for diabetics. So what are the effects there? Well, they extend their lifespans. Oh, this is the opposite of like, eventually they're going to find that it fucks you up. One of my favorite types of feedback is the default position that, well, they're going to find that this fucks you up eventually. Like, how do you know that? You made that up. It's cool. It's really Hollywood. I'll tell you, that's really Hollywood. And a lot of people think that like real life works like that. Like there's all these hidden downsides and trade-offs and stuff like that. I remember once I was saying how, tirzepatide is like a fucking health elixir. By the way, new data shows GLP-1s cut cancer rates by massive fractions, maybe by half of all measured cancers so far. Because apparently tumors have GLP-1 receptors, strange times. And there's always folks that really, really insist there's no such thing as a free lunch. And they're completely correct, and I'll tell you why. Do you know how we got these magical miracle drugs of tirzepatide and retatrutide and stuff? With billions of dollars of pharmaceutical research and people dedicating their entire lives to the shit. It's not a free lunch. Like, do you ever drive your car and think, how the fuck did they stuff 150 horses in something the size of my fucking engine? How is it that this with the steering wheel, the car takes me wherever? How does global positioning work? They say, I don't trust these GPS satellites. You don't get anything for free. They were for free, motherfucker. They had to invent fucking space travel for that shit to work. And so with a lot of these advanced drugs that are coming out, there is no free lunch. We paid for it with blood, sweat, and tears, and now we get to use these amazing beneficial things. And it's okay. But here's the thing. If you insist on not doing it because you think there's still something wrong, I encourage you to think of it like this. What is the default assumption? The default assumption, if you don't use drugs to improve your health, is that you're going to continue to be healthy. How does aging work then? Your body is not by default healthy. It is by default incredibly fragile. And if you can take something that makes it less fragile, that is better than doing nothing at all. Doing nothing is not the default safe position. It's not. The term better safe than sorry is a philosophical non-starter. You're not better safe because you're not safe. I think I've said this before in one of my Progress Channel podcasts. If you're in a cave and there's predators and food outside and you stay in your cave, you go better safe than sorry. How are you going to eat? You're going to die in that cave. You're not safe. So you have to risk being sorry in order to be long-term safe. And so if there's drugs out in this world, new drugs that are being made by pharmaceutical companies that show net benefits to health, it's probably a good idea to take them and not worry about what could the side effects be. You should be concerned, but then look into it and find, actually long-term, they're like longevity drugs. it's time to uncork that. And if you're looking at pesticides and organic foods and go, I don't know, look at it as objectively as you can. Because nature, here's another thing, nature is not on your side. Nature is on its own side. It is not here to take care of you. That Gaia, Mother Earth bullshit. Gaia did have fat ass titties though. I'll give her that. You know what I'm saying? All the drawings of Gaia, bitch has like life givers. Other than that, like, you know, like people love the Avatar movies. They get that tree that heals your ass. Dump your dumb ass next to a tree and it fucking screws you up with its branches and you're like better. You guys, that's not real. The real equivalent of that tree is like the neonatal ICU. Kid is born at 6 months, is going to die. They have machines in it to keep your kid alive and give him a future. It's all artificial. Artificial is the future. Because we had natural all of evolutionary ancestry, and we usually died at 30 from tooth infections and constant war. We can do better than natural. Nothing wrong with natural on principle, but nothing right with it on principle either.
Yeah, I guess we can debate for another fucking 12 hours where these ideas come from. And I think a lot of it stems from mistrust in government and institutions, which is great. Fine.
Yeah.
Right. As a default, whatever you want to, whatever. That's a separate topic. But another one is diet soda, for example, which is a godsend, as I think you would agree.
Yes.
For people that actually care about the real caloric makeup of what non-diet soda is. But that's another thing that you hear said is, granted, they're, by people that haven't read the studies, haven't spent some time with an AI to educate them on this or whatever, haven't really looked into it, but they'll say, oh, you're better off drinking like the one with sugar because, you hear that a lot.
Because it's natural sugar. I don't trust those artificial sweeteners. And that's like a dope vibe, but you look into all the research and it says artificial sweeteners are healthier than added calories from sugar. And inevitably you get people who are like, why not just drink water? Because I want to pay no health downside and have amazing tasty things. How is that wrong? Diet soda is one of those litmus tests for, are you reasoning scientifically or not? Because if you look at the science, it's super, super straightforward. People have a lot of feelings though.
About what is it specifically that they have feelings about? Is it aspartame? Is it sucralose is the new one?
It's all of them, bro. People think that if something is artificial, that it's bad for you. It is the naturalistic fallacy, aka the argument from nature, which is a logical fallacy. They're assuming that when things are artificial, they're bad. When things are natural, they're good. That is not a tenable assumption. That is not a true thing. There are natural things that are good, natural things that are bad, artificial things that are good, artificial things that are bad. It's a heuristic shortcut that doesn't work. It sucks, right? Because I wish it worked. But you just have to go claim by claim. And that's annoying. Luckily, it's not annoying anymore because we have like AI now that can just give us mostly correct answers on things. So if you're confused about what's healthy and what's not, you could just ask an AI chatbot and it'll probably steer you right. Probably won't steer you wrong.
What about caffeine?
Caffeine has one serious downside. If you consume it more like afternoon, it can interfere with the quantity or quality of your sleep, and sleep is a health elixir. So as long as you finish drinking the vast majority of your caffeine before 12 p.m., which nobody ever does, I'll say real world advice, just try not to have a ton of it after 12. And if you're having good, high quality sleep, you're probably good. Although it's tough to say how high quality your sleep is, at least quantity, for sure quality. Other than that, caffeine is totally fine. And the maximum safe recommended amount of caffeine for people, as long as they work up to it, is actually 1,000 milligrams a day. After that, they get so worried about other things, but man, that's like a lot of caffeine. And so most people who have 200 to 300 milligrams per day, which is like even still plenty, if they can have the vast majority of that before 12 p.m., caffeine is totally dandy and not bad for your health in almost any measurable way.
Yeah, I think it's just trade-offs, right? And we discussed this, right? When I do interviews, I load up on caffeine, and even if it goes late into the day, I'm willing to pay for that lack of sleep with having a good recording, because you flew out here to do this, and I want to create the best possible product for the listener. So I guess it's a matter of trade-offs.
It is a matter of trade-offs. If you know the thing, they're great. If 6 days a week you are good and one day a week you have too much caffeine, my God, that is the tiniest thing in the world. A lot of health and nutrition is about not consistently doing dumb shit that hurts your health. Even inconsistently doing dumb shit that hurts your health is totally fine. Drinking is another big one. People ask about drinking. If you drink every few weeks, you can have a lot of alcohol every few weeks and you'll be totally fine. If you drink a lot of alcohol 4 days a week, you're going to die sooner. So it's really about like, if you can consistently have really good health behaviors, every now and again, a lot of bullshit's totally fine. Another one is fast food. People ask about fast food and junk food. You can have junk food here and there if you have a healthy body weight and it's only a few times a week that you have junk food, you're totally good.
Anabolic steroids. Are you comfortable sharing what you're on today?
I'm not a good person when I'm on those drugs. Like, I would walk out of my house to go to my gym, and it was this beautiful sunny summer day, and I like objectively knew it was gorgeous, but couldn't feel the beauty anymore. I just felt like outward manifestations of rage. People will say, hey, you should do this, and you want to purposefully tell them no. And you know it's wrong, but it feels right.
Ozempic, semaglutide, tirzepatide.
The primary way through which they work is they reduce your appetite. Then you can lose a ton of weight and get way healthier. But they do all kinds of really cool shit in addition to that. These drugs, they are literal life extension drugs. This is not speculative. They actually have old people taking them and they die less. And most recently, GLPs have been implicated in cutting cancer progression rates by about half. It's a really big deal.
Peptides.
I'm just so tired of peptides.
Well, tell us why. I saw this guy Clavicular who's been on some podcasts.
I use crystal for hollow cheeks. I'm not a huge longevity guy.
Looks maxing's more dangerous practices. Dalton, how important does something have to be to you for you to take a hammer? In the next 5 to 10 years, AI is going to give us drugs that cure the vast fraction of human disease. And I think many drugs are going to start to be able to reverse the aging process, which is a huge deal.
What do you think would blow people's minds the most? What's up, guys? Thank you so much for taking the time to watch the interview. If you got anything out of this video at all, please like the video, leave me a comment, tell me what you thought of the video, tell me who you'd like to see on the show. I really appreciate the support. It goes a long way on these platforms, as you guys know. Most importantly, I have some amazing guests that are coming in for interviews in the very near future, so please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of them. But that's it. I really appreciate your support. Thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.